This episode of Scab Talk is brought to you by Lethal Gaming Gear. And welcome back to Scab Talk, everyone. Today's episode, we could continue in our discussion about the wipe, patch 16, and the flea market, of course. As you may know from last week's episode, if you're tuning in, the flea market was going to be unlocked precisely yesterday. However, we have some new information that we will share with you in just a moment. But first, Giga, how's it going?
I was like, but first what? Like, is this something more important? No, yeah, no, it's going good. It's going well, actually. It's going well. I'm cracking on. I've been continuing on streaming in the evening this way, which is unusual. I was talking, I don't know whether I said it on here or just to the stream, but like, this is the first year where, for like 4 years, where we've not had a child under the age of 2 in the house. It's been a long time, since 2020. So it makes a difference, you know? And so, you know, wifey can handle it in the night, you know, in the evenings. They're not too bad. They'll actually like go to sleep and not be crazy. And we're not up like constantly. Like, it can be bad, but it's not as bad as it was. So gives a bit more leeway. So it means I can do video stuff in the day and then stream at night. So I'm actually going to change my schedule a bit and do like 2 afternoons and 2 evenings instead. So we can get some more of the poor West Coasters who just never get to catch the stream in, which would be quite fun. But no, it's been good. So I've been like, yeah, continuing on the grind. I think I'm level 34 now. So pushing up, you know, usually I kind of get stuck. Like I slow down about this point and then I get stuck from like level 30-ish up to level 37. And it takes me an eternity. So it'd be quite nice to get to level kind of 37, 38, 40 or whatever beforehand. And just to like keep pushing. But I feel like with Arena and being efficient with quests and stuff is actually working out quite well. And like this wipe in particular, because progression is so weird because of the flea lock and like the final raid hideout, that I've spent a lot of time like looking at the optimal paths through rather than just usually being like, oh, just bang out as much XP as possible. It's like lots of other stuff. You know, I did a video about how to get the final raid items without finding them, basically, which is like, you know, here's this craft that makes this, here's this quest that gives you this one. And I've been like focusing on so many quests to give me stuff way more than I ever would normally. Right? It never normally matters. And yeah, there's loads of them where, you know, you can get a tool set from this one, you get electric motor from this guy, you can get, you know, some other stuff that's annoying, drills. Like dry fuel's one of the ones that you can't do, but yeah, drills or whatever. And like they're on like random quests through the progression. And it's like, okay, well, I want to get to this one. How do I go and do this, you know, this other chain of stuff? I posted something on Twitter which was like my trail of thought the other day. I was just going kind of crazy because I'm at like one of my biggest blockers right now, which is like, other than quest keys, which everybody's having problems with. Biggest blocker right now is a UV lamp. They're really common. They're all over the place. And because you don't need them for anything really in the hideout, they're not really an upgrade requirement for basically anything. There's just like a couple of barters for them. I've not been picking them up. And then I was waiting on Gunsmith and being like, well, I don't want to necessarily do the Gunsmiths again if they're all the same. There's only one new one, I think, Gunsmith, like Old Friends or something, which comes off Gunsmith 7. So I was like, I don't think anything has changed at all. So I don't really want to re-record them this white when it's literally the same. Like, I don't see the point of that. It's like a waste of time, and I'd rather do more interesting stuff. I wouldn't even enjoy it. Like, it's cool if it's different, but if it's the same, I wouldn't enjoy making those videos again. So I got to Gunsmith Part 5, bashed that all out in one go, because I finally decided, because, you know, if you're going to make the videos, right, you have to like not do them until you're ready to record. Because I want to do the talk it through and like show clicking it and actually handing it in. Because if you don't have the ability to hand it in, you don't know that it will work, right? Like Gunsmiths are finicky sometimes. They're weird, and like whether it's like on the ergo, whether it's, you know, above 33 ergo, but most of the time 33 works. Sometimes it doesn't. Like they're kind of fiddly. So it's like, to know that it works, you have to actually have the quest like active in front of you. It's the only way you can really know if it's going to work. And I'm like kind of nervous about sending something out that then doesn't work, because that would be the absolute worst thing. I'd rather not do them than put something out that's going to be wrong. And so anyway, so I was like, fine, I'm not going to do them. Let's bash through them. Did Gunsmith 5, get time gated, wait the following day, tried to do Gunsmith 6. I'm like, I need the Fortis shift. Oh, I forgot about that. Go to the mechanic to do the barter. Oh, I know. I need 5 UV lamps to do the barter for the MPX to get the Fortis shift. It's like, man, I only have 3. And so that happened maybe 4 days ago, and I've only found one, a UV lamp in that time. And I've been like spamming my scav. I found 3 intels for the Intel Center. I found 3 more flash drives for the Intel Center. I found like loads of stuff. I found more drills. I found tool sets. Can I find like more than one UV lamp? Absolutely not. So I was like, okay, this is driving me crazy. I don't want to just like spam more loot raids because it's kind of annoying. There's got to be a clever way of doing this. But UVs are a bit annoying. There's only one quest that they come from, which is from, oh goodness, I'm going to forget which one it is now. It's a mechanic one you get later. I think it's called, I want to say supply plans, but I don't actually think it is that one. No, it's surplus goods. It's surplus goods. So that you have to go, yes, you have to go to reserve to pick up the box. But the problem is for surplus goods, you need RBST. And RBST is like relatively rare. But RBST comes from Spartor 7.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so to get surplus goods done, I need RBST. To get RBST, I need to go to Spartor 7. Okay, so let's go through the Spartors. Unfortunately, this one is the one that it hasn't worked out on, because Spartor 4, you need to do the generators, and for that you need like either West 220 or 219, and there isn't any way to get that. It's a random one. But yeah, other than that, I was going through all these other ones being like, I want to do healthcare privacy part 6, and that I need a factory exit key. And so for that one, where do I get that from? Oh, you can get that from Scout. So then I can go and do Signal. I do Signal 1 and part 2, do Scout, get the key, then go back, use the key, do the healthcare privacy 6. I don't know, I'm finding it quite fun. But the only way that you can do that is if like you have an intricate knowledge of the quest and all their rewards.
Yeah.
Or using some tools, right? Because even I don't know what the quests give half the time, because normally it doesn't matter, right? So it never normally matters. So I've been using Tarkov.dev for that, because you can put an item in and it lists, this item is a part of all these guns. It's a reward from all of these quests. It's a requirement for all of these quests. It's a requirement for all these hideout modules. So it gives you like a full list of everything and where it might come from. It's not like completely up to date for everything. Some of the Christmas quests aren't on there, for example. So the one with 2 fine array GPUs and 3 flash drives, killing people with the Santa one, that's not on there. But for the broadest sort of set of most of the quests, you can go like, well, I need this item, look it up and see where it comes from. And I figured a lot of people probably wouldn't know for some of those other ones, where do I get like a syringe from? Where do I get blood sets from? Where do I get, the silicon tube thermite? Like there's various quests that give these things. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time doing that, and I've actually quite enjoyed it. But as per, like, I posted that on Twitter, and somebody was just like, I appreciate that, but like, the game's not set up for that. So unless you have like an intricate knowledge of either the stuff, or like pour through the wiki for hours, or like a tool, like, I know of the tool where to get the information, whereas most people don't probably even know where the tool is. And half the time in Tarkov, it's like, oh, you're going to do this quest. Oh, the reward's hidden, right? And you don't even know until you finished it. So if you kind of knew the pathway a bit more and it was set up that way, it would actually be kind of fun. But like that sort of interesting, I'm questing for the things that I need from the rewards has only appeared because of the situation now. So it's unsurprising that this is not supported in the game, because that was never really a thing until now. And I've only just realized I like doing that. I quite enjoy it. So yes, that's what I've been doing. Like the latest task is obviously get UV lamp still, which does require me to go to Shoreline and get the keys for the generator rooms. But other than that, that's why I'm powering up to level 35, because I'm basically at the point where I can get the thick case now. So I have a LEDX, I have an ophthalmoscope, but I need 35 to get private clinic to actually open the quest, so you can then hand the things in and get the thick case. So I've been trying to do that. So I've been doing it's been quite interesting. I've been doing like the super high XP quests from the EOD, like old times quest line. It's been kind of fun.
Do you have Med Station 3 also?
I do.
Okay. Did you... I have to ask now because that's on my mind. Did you grind Vitality as well?
No, I just played Arena.
Oh, that's true. I guess that pseudo counts, but you could do that passively.
So, exactly. So I'm never going to have to grind Vitality ever again, because Arena levels up Vitality so much more quickly. We're talking, I did a rough back of the envelope calculation in another video. It's like, you're in combat roughly 150 times. So I think maybe it was 75. I think it was like 75 times more than in the base game. So it's like for roughly every engagement you have in the base game, you have like 60 in Arena, especially if you're playing Last Hero, which is what I was talking about. But yeah, like Vitality is just not even a problem anymore, which is good. So I didn't have to grind that this way, which is nice. But the Med Station does now need a finely made LEDX. Lots of people have realized that at this point. So you now need 2 finely made LEDX. You could get one on the Christmas tree. I did craft one in the Christmas tree, but I have found 2 and made one, because the Arena dailies also give you baubles, so you can get white baubles from arena dailies. If you re-roll into white bauble quests, then you can do it that way as well. It's another way of doing it. So yeah, so I had to already, which is good. So yeah, because otherwise that's a bit of a gate. But yeah, but this is the thing. This is crazy. I found all these amazing things. The one thing I was gated for with med station, because I was like so focused on the Ledix as well. Like, oh, so focused. One thing I was gated on, the 4 Saliens. I like, had an ophthalmoscope and the Ledix. Didn't have 4 Saliens to upgrade med station. I was like, damn, this is crazy. It was like for the intelligence center. I ended up with I thought the intels were going to take me ages, but I just did like street scav filing cabinet runs. Just every filing cabinet in existence. There were so many. And I ended up with I had all the intelligences and all of the secure flash drives before I had the final power cord I needed. It's just like really weird because I'm not focusing on those items, right? So like, and often I'll throw them away. Like if you're going in through cupboards and filing cabinet drawers and computers or whatever, it's like, if I find a CPU fan, I'll probably take that rather than the power cord. I can get power cords; they're 2 a penny, right? It's easy. So same thing. I got stuck with for this MPX part. I actually didn't even have enough DVD drives at first. I had to go and find another DVD drive as well because it's just like I never take them. You need like one for one of the modules, and that's it. The rest of it's just like silly barters that don't matter. So yeah, it's funny. The common items sometimes end up being like a problem. But yeah, once we get there, that'll be cool. 35, get that one done, then get into level 4 traders, and yeah, we'll just carry on from there. So how's it going for you? Where are you up to?
I think I'm level 26. Still, I got like one more setup kill. Start basically on the shoreline task. I gotta get one more kill with the AK for Punisher Part 1. So, that was very satisfying. One raid of my duo, we did like 6 shoreline quests in one go, and it was just like, oh, that felt so good. Very like instant dump of dopamine. And yeah, it's like definitely experience the woes and struggles of trying to find a specific item for a specific thing, and I haven't really. I'm kind of like over the whole like looking up stuff on the wiki. Like I'm just kind of over it. And I kind of feel bad because I'm like, where's this quest item again? Speaking to my duo, and he's like, I'll look it up. Because I just don't want to. I'm so like agnostic to the idea of using the wiki now. But I did crack a little bit and was looking at items because this is kind of ties on what you were saying too. Is like I think it is. I could totally see how it's like super like satisfying to take all this like knowledge or like like you're cracking the code and you're chaining all these things together. Like I could totally see that. Totally get that. And I wish that in Tarkov you could link search an item and it would show it everywhere. Like I was thinking, like, what if they just turn in the Flea into like a handbook / catalog thing? So when you link search something, because it's like sometimes I link search something and like, oh, this is used for a barter, and then I forget it's also used in a craft, like for an input, and it's like, oh, I wish I could see that at the same page, like it's so that just makes the wiki, more another reason just to use the wiki. You just type in the item and do it. But it seems like they have the I don't know. It's an ask, I realize, but it would be really nice because then you could tie it to like quest rewards and even like spawns on maps if you wanted to. But I don't know how much work this would all entail. But anyways, that would be a really nice thing. It would be such a nice quality of life feature because it's just it's very hard to keep track of all this stuff. Like even however many hours I have in this game, it's probably over 2,000. I don't know, but it's just really hard, and it's like I don't want to constantly have to look at the wiki. It's just I don't know. It's just for me, it just deteriorates the experience a bit. In some ways, it feels like that is the experience of Tarkov, is that sort of like following the linear path. But that's such a great thing about this wipe, is it feels very non-linear in what you're doing because you're having to like problem solve around these restrictions. As you put it, you're trying to like chain these multiple quests to use rewards to unlock, the ST. So you can go do that quest. So then you could turn that in to get your UV bulb. So then you could do the barter for the PX and take the Fortis shift and put it on the gun for gunsmith. It's like used to be, you never have that problem. You just go in the flea market and pay the fee, which was like, it might be a lot of money, but that's the other thing is it's kind of weird how money feels like very arbitrary right now. Like it
Mm.
like it was previously. Like money was like I don't know. Money isn't really hard to make. It's surviving that's hard to do in Tarkov because that's largely how you make money, right? Whether you're scav or PMC, like you kind of need to survive. I guess PMC, unless you do hatchet running, but no one really does hatchet running anymore. And plus, all the money's on the flea market. You loot some white tape, it sells for like 1,000 rubles to the vendor. You put on a flea market, it's like 10k, 100x or 10x or whatever. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting how now it's like money is still not that relevant. Like a lot of times I end up just dumping it into storage, like cases, like rigs. I bought a pistol case for the first time. Well, I guess I bartered for it. I didn't buy it, but I bartered for it. And I was like, not doing the other barter that you do for the pistol cases, where you give like Jaeger pistol cases and fuel cans, and you get a weapons case. Like just actually using the pistol case to store like pistols and magazines. Because I still haven't done
And
stir
ammo,
up.
I think they can do.
Oh yeah, that's smart. Yeah. But I have bought 2 med cases. Like I'm missing little gaps in the med case barter. I forget what it is, like a few random bits. But so I'm like, I got all this money. I mean, I say all this money. I got like, you know,
Enough.
yeah, yeah. Um, but anyways, I don't know where I was planning to end up there because the chain jumped from many things there.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, there was an interesting. We had an interesting conversation in chat the other day about. There's a guy, I think he's Foxtrot, Happy Foxtrot, and he was basically like, he was kind of like, challenge you to do a new quest without like looking at the wiki or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, no, because I don't know, like I was sort of tempted, but at the same time, I was just kind of like, I just don't really enjoy. And like, it was interesting because he was like one of the few people who was like, oh, I actually really enjoy like figuring it out and like finding it out and stuff. And I was like, the problem is that because it's almost circular now, like the quest are designed knowing they'll go on the wiki, and so the whole thing is
Yeah.
like is circular, and like a lot of the time you just don't even get enough information. Like you do broadly, but like it's just so weird. I was like, I just don't really find that fun, like trying to figure it out based on like it's not really a puzzle game. It's like a lot of the quests are just like stupid, and they've just been brute forced by someone's found like 10,000 people are looking for it. One person found it, and now it's gone on the wiki. It's like kind of weird. The thing about the other part of it about like BSG putting some stuff in the game so that for the link search is a bit. I don't know. It's weird because half of the problem, or not even the problem. Half the problem is it's because the way the game's designed, right? It's like it's supposed to be this progression through the levels and blah blah blah. And when you're playing as a new player, that it is how it makes sense. But nowadays, most of us have played a few wipes at least. Like I would say, the majority of the player base has played a couple of wipes. I would imagine there is still the new players coming in. Most people played a few wipes, which means you've broadly done it all before, and you're then not thinking about just like what do I have to do now. You're thinking about what is everything I've got to do in the future. So like, and I can't imagine BSG ever like allowing you to like link search forwards into quests that you don't have to say, well, this is going to be needed for X, Y, and Z later. Which is what we're really doing as experienced players, right? When we're looking for stuff, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got you Shanka. Well, I need 2 of those finding raid. I need more for doing
Right.
setup. Like all of that inbuilt knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
There's just certain items as well. Like I remember saying something to chat one time. I was like, there's like a few things. There's like that ski mask, the full ski mask one, the like full head ski mask. And I was like, that item just it just gets my spidey sense tingling, because I'm sure I've probably not had it at one point in the past, and it's just like driven me crazy. So now I just like keep them, and then I go and like, what quest actually even is it for? And then I'm like, oh, I only need one. I've got like 5 of them, because every time I see one, I'm just like, must
Oh
keep.
yeah, that's right. Forgot about that item. Yeah.
Called a Shamaska or something. It's the
Right.
weird one you can't wear like the helmet with, but you need to hand it into Agman at some point. There's like certain items that I just have this like, I'm just like this sense of just like, there's like sort of Tarkov tingle of like, it's important. I don't remember why, but I know this one's important for something. So like you've got all of that inbuilt knowledge beforehand, and like I just don't think BSG would ever redesign the game in such a way that like, you know, you're looking ahead to all these other quests, and so a system like that would end up ultimately being pointless. Because, and it's weird actually, you talk about the wiki. Like I don't really use the wiki that much anymore. I have like the greatest respect for the wiki guys. I do use it sometimes, especially for like quest locations or like new stuff, because it tends to go up there pretty quick. But the fact that they use fandom, and fandom has just got worse and worse and worse. Like when it was before it was fandom, it was pretty good. It was actually really good. Now it's fandom. It's just like literally just like, I got sent this game the other day called it's called like Stimulation Simulator or something, and it's really funny. It just like it's like a clicker game. It's like 10-minute clicker game, but it just like it dramatically ramps up very quickly to like DVD bouncing around the screen. Like there's a reaction streamer turns up in the corner, and it's just like just all things are shouting at you at the same time. That's what being on fandom these days is like.
Yeah,
and it's to the point where like, unless you have to be using like certain browsers or whatever. Like if you're just using Google Chrome, like raw dogging Chrome with no like special stuff, and you know, I do have like, you know, one of the ad blocks on there. Even then, it's just like it lags the whole browser. Like you could barely load the website. I basically turned off JavaScript for all fandom pages globally across Chrome.
Wow.
Because otherwise they break. So I can't resort the tables anymore. If I need to go on the wiki, I'll go in a different browser, because I still use Chrome day to day for all my other stuff, right? But like I have other browsers installed for, you know, when I'm streaming, I use OperaGX, for example. So I tend to look at the wiki on that, because then I can still, you know, sort the tables and whatnot. But I've just had to turn it off in Chrome, because it's so laden down with ads and stuff that I just hate using it. So these days I tend to use, you've probably seen me use Tarkov Companion on stream, which is that app made by like dude Tristan, who I've spoken to a lot now, which is awesome, because it's basically just like the quest list and the map from a map. So he's got his maps that are in there. It's like it's not as detailed for loot and stuff as things like what's that other mapping site called? The one that's got the small like one-time paywall thing. I forget what it's called. But it's not as detailed for like loot and stuff, but for quests, that's all you really need is just like your level, where are you at in the quests? You click done when you're done, and then it shows them on the map. And I like going to, because you'll go to the shoreline map and it'll say, oh, you need to mark this ambulance and you need to do this. And all the quest markers will be all over the place. And I'm like, okay, well now I can make a route. Okay, maybe I need to go to Pier, and then I can go up to there and do this one and then do that one and go like Woods the other day. I like went, I had to kill scavs. I then like ran into, you know, picked up the thing in the back of the SUV, then ran into Sawmill, grabbed the item from there, like ran up, you know, just like it helps me plan routes so much better. And I use that combined with Tarkov.dev to work out like what's coming next. Like I actually don't use the wiki that much anymore. I tend to just use those two tools, because the wiki doesn't have this item comes from these quests as rewards, whereas Tarkov.dev does. Whereas and then the maps are like so much more annoying to use on the wiki, because they're all, some of them are different sizes, some of them are not zoomed in enough, some of them like, the wiki's great, right? Don't get me wrong, the wiki's awesome, but as I said, I just tend not to use it anymore. And then I have to use it in a different browser because the whole ads thing, it's just like the fandom thing really pushed me away a lot from the wiki. I started looking at alternative things dramatically because of that. So anyway, it's it's weird. Like the progression system is strange, but as that person on Twitter said, right, you have to be like real Tarkov no lifer to like get that pleasure out of it. Like even yourself, right, you're like a proper min-maxer and you've been playing Tarkov forever, and like you're not interacting with the quest system in the way I am. You've like shunned the wiki, right? Like can't be bothered to look at it anymore. So there's like only a very small subset of people like me who are actually enjoying that kind of thing, even though I think it's pretty cool. So if it could be woven into the game better, then amazing. But I don't know how they would. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's tough too, because we were doing this quest. You get it from Ragman, Break the Deal, which is a new quest to swipe. It's in a new area, and you got to stash a DVL, a magazine, a spectroscope, and a pack of any type of 760 by 51 ammo. And I think they're each different spots within this new area of customs. It's the sort of like the scaffolding of like the blue metal, giant thing. I don't know how best
it's
to
the
describe
camera
it.
building, right? I think it's the camera plant building.
It's
I think
right
it's
next
that one.
to that one. Yep. It's like attached to it basically because you can mantle into the camera building from there. But yeah, so I was like, okay, I looked at the picture and I was like, okay, I noticed. It's like we went there and I was like, yeah, follow me. I'm pretty sure it's down here. So I go like in the underground. It's not really the underground, but it's like the basement of the scaffolding, like beneath it. And because I'm looking at the picture and it's like, that's where the picture's at. So I'm like, I think we got to plant it over here in this little like hole carved out of, I don't even know what it was. I don't know if it was a tank or something. But anyways, and sure enough, nope, that's not where you gotta plant it. I was like, oh my god. So our friend's like, I'll pull up the wiki. So he pulls up the wiki. And, you know, it's actually just a bunch of boxes on different floors, but don't really have any way of knowing that exactly. I will say though, I did read the quest description here, and it is a little bit better than what I've seen previously because it calls out here. It's like, there's a lot of like flavor text, but it's like, stash these things at the very, scatter them about. What does it say? Hide it all over the scaffolding. And it's like, okay. And like I could kind of see if you had those things and you walked up there. And I don't know. I just like, I don't really know what's the solution to it all, but it just like feels bad. And in my experience, it's like the dialogue just does nothing. There's like no, I don't know. It's like why the wiki was created. I mean, not really, but also, also yes.
I just feel that there's a very small minority of people who are enjoying the dialogue and the text flavor. Right? There's a very small number of people who don't use the wiki for every single quest, and there's a few reasons for that. Like it almost feels like they may as well just short circuit it and just tell you. You may as well just be told, right, in the quest, like in the dialogue, because otherwise, because you're just going to do the wiki otherwise. Like I don't know. It's like you got to think like, what's the shortest circuit thing? The only way to stop someone going from the wiki is basically to just like tell them, and maybe they would go and do it then. But I don't know. They like it being this way, so whatever. I mean, I always feel like today's system and design, they know it's going to go on the wiki, so they design it in a sort of such a way, and then it's a bit of a treasure hunt for people, and then they go and look at it on the wiki. Like, it's okay. Honestly, it's fine. Like, I don't know how to fix it, so maybe just keep it like that. But like, contemplating going and doing it, like, I don't. The thing is, I don't trust BSG enough in terms of the quest design and the way that it's written to find an enjoyable experience going to do it. Right, the flair on customs, like, it's not a quest, but it's just case in point about like the way things are designed. It's like you go to the place, you do the thing that absolutely should work intuitively, and then it doesn't work just because of the way it's done. Or you go and try and find the guitar pick in like Ballet Lover or in that apartment on Streets. It's like freaking Escape from Monkey Island 1995. Like trying like every single damn pixel in the room. Like it's like that. I don't find that engaging or entertaining. It's so stupid. So I have no incentive to go and do that. And it's like and do, especially with something like this, right? It's like new quest, you got to plan stuff. It's just like, do you really want to be like going around like rubbing your face on boxes like in PvP, in the PvP server, like sometimes out in the middle of nowhere? Like I looked at one the other day on Woods. I had to fire the red flare up in the old sawmill, and it's like I got to stand in the middle of the old sawmill and shoot a flare. It's like, and it's a red flare, and you get one from the quest. Well, where am I going to get another one from? Oh, I'm going to have to farm them on scads or something, because there's literally no source of them otherwise, other than on scads, or maybe in some boxes, but they're not that common. So it's like, I'm sure as hell looking at the wiki for where to stand, because I don't trust what it says. Go to the old sawmill and fire the flare. Like, but where exactly? Like, if I'm not like pixel perfect stood on the railing, the freaking flare extract kills me. So like, I don't trust that the location is going to be any way intuitive. Yeah. So I don't feel that I'm being unfair by going to the wiki, because it's like, it's so distrustful, it's so untrustworthy, the quest like dialogue and stuff, that and you can waste hours of time. Right? You can either go get it done once, just check the area, boom, okay, I know where the area is now, great, now it's fair, now the quest is fair, now all I have to do is go there with an item I basically can only get once, stand in the middle of the open, fire it off, and then on this one I didn't need to extract, but often you do need to extract as well. Like, that's enough of a challenge to be fun. I don't need to guess where the area is, lose my one shot, and then I have to go and find another red flare from God knows where. Like, that's not entertaining. That is not fun. I don't mind it so much of the ones where like you can go and get something again, and then you try it, like Delivery from the Past. That's fine. That's okay. Yeah, you could lose the thing, whatever. But like, it's fair. I know what I need to do, and I just have to go and do it. And it's hard to do it. That's okay. That's good quest design. We've always said delivery from the past is one of the best quests in the game. It's obvious what you have to do. You have to get the key first. So that's the first part of the challenge, which this wipe was even more of a challenge. Go get the key. You have to survive. Then you go to factory, which is scary, and you do the thing and plant the doodad, whatever. It's like it's a difficult quest. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
But like what you actually have to do is intuitive. You can't just like screw it up by accident, lose the item in a way that like you think you completed the quest and then you didn't. You know, it's just like it's all of that stuff. There's so much to it. I could keep going on a rant about all the quests where you complete it and it goes, but dang, you completed the quest, and then you do the thing in the quest that says you can't do, and then it's like, oh no, you failed it now. Actually, by the way, after you've completed it already, like all of that kind of stuff. It's just like it just drives me nuts. So that's why it's just like almost every single time I'll go and read the wiki, like look through Tarkov Companion, like look at the quest thing, like, and even then I do stuff like I go to do fishing gear and I forget the multi tool.
Yeah.
Even then,
yeah.
And that took me then like 4 raids to finish because I forgot the multi-tool and I had to go and plant the multi-tool. Like obviously the next time I go, I get shot in the head by somebody, while I'm planting it. I think
a great example of what you described earlier with basically getting Tarkoved is the quest bullshit, where you have to go into dorms and stash various items, which is fine. Maybe this fight might be a bit more challenging if you are there sooner than later, but nonetheless, but the caveat is you can't kill a scav. So let's say, because you have to like go to the bridge, open up a trunk of a car and get like a quest item of a flash drive, and then you got to bring like some gold chains and a roller, I think, whatever. But you go in dorms, 3-story. Mind you can't kill a single scav, so that's like part of the challenge. It's not like I can melee them or disarm them, you know what I mean? It's just like, let me just not get shot. I don't know, it's weird. But let's say you do that, and God forbid you're a solo, but let's say you do that, okay, and you plant it all, you did the thing, you get the quest complete, you get the I think you get the sound, I'm not sure.
You do?
It's like, I got a personal
You do?
vendetta against this. I know, I have it written down in my catalog. So you get the sound, but if you think for a split moment that you are good to go and you can kill scavs, wrong, try again, back to the lobby.
Yeah.
Have fun planting all those things again.
The quest literally completes.
It's literally called bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. But the same thing is the one that kills scavs without healing as well. You can complete that quest and then you're like, oh, finally, I've completed the quest. Let me heal up. Failed.
Yeah. That might be
Same
a
thing, right?
flaw in like coding, you know? But regardless.
It's a flaw somewhere, but yeah.
I mean, the thing says kill 3 scavs without healing. I'm going to argue that. I don't know. Whatever. I guess you can interpret different ways. Anyways, I just think it's... Oh, and then the craziest thing about all of that, the bullshit thing, right, is it's actually better for you to complete it and then go and suicide. That way you can't accidentally kill scav. Because remember, people are doing setup on customs, so you could mistake a scav for a PMC. That would be tragic.
After completing bullshit, once I'm in dorms and completing bullshit, I changed my hand so that it's like at the bottom of the mouse. I basically unbind left click. So
oh my god,
I will try
genius.
to get out. It's like I will try to escape this raid. I will try to get out, but I'm not firing again.
Wait,
that's it. Like I now you put your gun on the floor or something. Like put it in the bush or whatever. That also works. Like anything. I usually just have my like if it's really obviously a PMC, then I'm just like okay, maybe we can fight this person. But like I'm gonna have my hand at the bottom of the mouse just so it's like I can't accidentally auto click. And we're just gonna left hand only on the way out with a bit of aim with my mouse. But yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because the muscle memory kicks in and you just suddenly flick headshot someone.
Suka, PTSD occurs. You just instantly react.
I think it also happens with Psycho Sniper as well. Is that the one? Kill 5 players with bolties without dying. That you do 5 kills and then it's like, oh, you completed the quest. Good job. And then you die on the way to extract. Burp. Denied. Go back and do it again.
Yeah, those are
stuff
annoying.
like yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure that does happen. Right. enough ranting about quest design in Tarkov. Should we actually talk about what's happened in the game?
Yeah, I did want to get onto that. So big news is Flea Market has been extended, as we allude to in the intrude/prelude. They were originally supposed to brought it back on the 9th. It's currently the 10th. I think
Yep.
Tuesday or something another. Nikita put out a thing that, hey, we're going to, based off the player feedback, I say Nikita, I mean, it's really Escape from Tarkov Twitter page, but yeah, they decided to extend it, or extend the lock, whatever, for 5 more days until January 14th. And honestly, I mean, I really wasn't too sure. I know there was a fair amount of, like, Twitter, Tarkov influencers, and I'm sure various other places, social media, Reddit, etc. But at least on the Twitter space that I saw, and the general ethos from what I was hearing, most people, it seemed like the majority, was sort of in favor for keeping it locked for longer, which I personally found a bit surprising.
I don't know. I think it's interesting the way that the community's like split on this one. It is weird. I would say that the average content creator and person with voice or reach on Twitter is broadly in favor of keeping it locked for longer, I would say. And then there's a small minority of kind of like, I don't really know what to call them, but they're kind of like sort of like Labs Mania type people who want to have it back. And then the casual player base seems to be also split, but I don't know the ratio entirely on how it's split. There's some people who are like, I'm really, really struggling without it, and some people who are like, I'm really enjoying the game without it. So it's quite split. I think within the casual player base, I think no Flea is being received better than the Finding Raid hideout.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
I think so too.
The casual guys would rather have Finding Raid hideout rolled back so that you can use any item again on that. Because that affects your secure container. It's not just a Flea thing, right? The Flea mechanism, like Flea locked, but Finding Raid hideout means you can find items, put them in your secure container, and then you can use them still. If you die. And casual players are probably dying more than, experienced players. So lots of people find the Finding Raid hideout so annoying. I'm seeing some messages in chat, but a lot of people are enjoying the no Flea broadly as a concept, and so I think that's fine. What's like interesting is that as part of the notification that they said about the extension, actually the most anger I've seen about it is related to this. So we were actively monitoring community feedback on the flea market being locked to decide to extend it. Thank you for actively sharing the feedback, reporting issues. And people were like, where did you get this information from? Right? Actually, even the first post is pestily saying, I don't mind this either way. And actually, neither do I. I also said the same thing before this. I don't mind either way, but where exactly was the community feedback taken from? This would have been the perfect opportunity to use the in-game survey. Like, why didn't they use the in-game survey to ask people, how's it going? Like, what's going on? And it turns out, apparently, there is a set of surveys on the official Discord channel of EFT for whatever reason. And when I checked yesterday, and this is, a day after they had released these polls, there was like 900 votes or something on each one. Like, it's probably the single worst place to do a poll. As I said to chat yesterday, I would get more votes doing it on my YouTube community than that. Like, I'm full time on this game. It is all I do. And I didn't know that existed until chat told me. Like they haven't mentioned it anywhere else that there's a poll over there. So I don't know whether they're taking that more seriously than, like, I'm not sure. I don't know whether they're taking that more seriously than everything else, but like if they don't do a poll themselves, then they're looking at like a bit on Reddit, a bit on Twitter, a bit on this, a bit on that. It's like very like, there's a lot of bias involved with, like, as you said, like people seem very positive. It's like, well, the people who have the biggest voices are also a particular subset of the player base as well. So there's like a lot of bias involved in just like what you see.
Yep.
And so a polling game is like literally the only solution really to actually knowing what people think in general. It's like the only way,
non-biased way, which is
weird. And that was what people were most annoyed about. I think I saw a lot of people complaining about that, saying like, "Why aren't you using the poll system?
Yeah.
Like, we begged you to put the poll system in." And I saw a clip from Pestily. Somebody sent it to me yesterday. He basically was just like, he just seemed a bit annoyed about stuff. He was like, "I don't know whether I want to do like BSG's job for them anymore." In the sense of, I was on with Nikita and said, "Look, you guys should put more polls out to see what people think." And he was like, "Oh, you guys can tell us what questions you want to ask." And Pestily was like, why is it so hard to like ask, like put together a list of questions that you're interested in? Like, why do I have to do that for you? Which I was like, interesting. Like he was sort of had enough of it. So then the fact that they haven't used it for this, I think it's disappointed a lot of people. Because it literally is there now. They just have to write a poll and put it in the game. It's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
I mean, I assume it's someone's job, or it's someone's like job in quotation marks, where it's like, okay, you're in charge of this, but really they're in charge of some other thing that's deemed more important. You know what I mean? Like they sort of drew the short end of the straw. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or not. And I agree. Thought it was very weird that they didn't, like, that seemed like obvious to me, because I was just kind of assuming that they were going to stick to their word and they weren't going to do a poll, because it's just like BSG just kind of does what they do. Case in point, But it turns out they did a poll, and they ended up, like, I was kind of surprised, like, I'm pleasantly surprised, but still surprised. And yeah, I don't know. It's very weird to me, and I don't know, just like, yeah, BSG behavior, atypical, feels like.
Yeah. So I think that's what people are most annoyed about. Because that's the thing. It's like, without doing a poll, how can they know? Like they're just going off like the various, social medias and the loudest voices, which they always get criticized of. They only listen to the streamers, and like, it's kind of true, but like it is kind of true, right? It's like, what was the other one what did Pest reply about? Oh yeah, this is the next thing. Maybe we'll come on to that in a second. I don't know whether we should. Maybe we do talk about it now. It's sort of different, but it's the neck hitbox stuff. It's kind of related. Should we segue into that?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
For a minute. There's more news. So there was a clip. So this has been rumbling along for a while about the neck hitbox situation.
Yeah.
It was rumbling along that last wipe as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is just broadly I guess the increased sort of like variance, or what was the best way to call it? Like the
RNG.
Yeah, like RNG of fighting, which was the problem with the previous armor when the armor got reworked and there was gaps. That was kind of the problem with the original one, right? That was the issue with the original one, is that it was flatter because ammo mattered a lot less, because 50% of the hits would avoid the armor, so it didn't matter what bullets you were using. But then it made fights a lot more variable, and it meant that also gear mattered less, because armor was like both armors and bullets like didn't really matter generally. So that was kind of tough. So this is sort of an extension of that mindset of it's just like random RNG. And there was a clip that came through of a streamer playing, and they go into factory and they open the door, and they just get like they just get insta shotgunned and die to the neck hitbox. They got Zabralo and to get a face shield thing, but because they get hit in the neck, they just instantly die. And it's like, no one is aiming for the neck per se. It just happens randomly, right? It's like, it's sort of like the sort of center of, if you're shooting center of mass, sometimes you'll hit it, right? And it's like, it's not really, it's such a specific small hitbox. It's not really skill to hit it either. And then scavs hit it as well. Like, it's just, there's lots of things, of reasons why people don't like it. I am, like, me personally, I'm a little bit kind of like, like, I don't, it just is what it is, right? I'm not actually that bothered. But anyway, so that got reposted by Pestily, who said he's not wrong, and that's his new catchphrase. He basically just retweets stuff and says he's not wrong, or is he wrong or something? And like a day later, Nikita posted neck/throat hitbox will be moved / added to the chest hitbox group. Now, exactly what that means is still, in under a little bit of, I imagined that just meant that it's exactly as it is now. I can't see how it's going to be any different to this. I imagine that it would just be exactly how it is now, except rather than the neck hit going to the 35 head pool, it now goes to the 85 chest pool.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I
all I can
assumed
imagine.
as well.
Nice Guy said, AKA armor that covers your chest will cover your neck/throat. But what does that mean? Right? He said, asking for clarification. It's 2 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Nope was right. Yes, the armor that covers the chest will also cover the neck. HP will not change. That was in Nice Guy's clarification. Now, I just can't imagine that is. I don't think there'll be a plate over it because I don't imagine they're going to change the plate hitbox. I just can't. I can't imagine that this is right. I don't think this is correct. I just can't see how this is going to work.
So their Nice Guy was asking how will chest armor. Like I'm kind of confused because right now it's separate. You have a neck armor piece, right?
Yeah, you have a neck armor piece on the armor.
Yeah, and
like
and
that's
you have
still
a
going to
neck
be there.
hitbox, but it just
Yeah
relegates the damage done to that hitbox to the head.
Yeah,
like it's effectively an extension of the head, and you have a segment of the head guarded. So now instead, it's going to be an extension of the thorax. So I also don't see how chest armor will affect the neck. But
agreed. Because I very highly doubt they're going to change any of the hitboxes, the actual like armor plate hitboxes. And the way that soft armor works is it's intrinsically linked to the PMC's hitbox. So I don't think anything is going to change except the damage gets redirected from the head into the chest. And what does that mean? Well, it means if you get one tapped by 762 by 39 PS, rather than it penning the class 3 armor on your Zabralo and instantly killing you because it's a head hit, it will get slightly reduced in damage and will hit you for about 40 to the chest instead. It seems fairer, right? It's still avoiding the armor plating. So you won't, like, the best armor that you're going to face through it is 3. That's going to be the best armor. And as we know, there's not actually that many rounds that will go through class 3 and instantly kill. There's only a handful. There's some of the like stupid ones for like Lapua Magnum and that kind of thing. And there's stuff like 366 AP. Like most other stuff won't do that. You need like 90 damage and above, I think, 37 pen-ish. It's like, obviously it's a bit of give and take, but you need somewhere around there, 42 pen and 90 damage from 366 AP is enough to one shot that and get a chest shot. But it's such a small number of rounds. Like previously it was basically everything, especially through class 2. Even PSD will kill you through class 2. Whereas now it won't. It'll just deal a lot of damage to your thorax. I feel like it's fairer. So long as it works the way I think it will work. And as I said, I can't imagine it because like literally all they have to do is redirect the damage from the neck into the chest. That's it. It's so easy code wise, right? To reorder all of the hitboxes so that it covers the neck as well with the plates and stuff. Like it's just that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to do that. Like I bet they're not going to do that. They're not.
Embrace the spaghetti.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, unless something weird happens, you will probably end up, you shoot somebody in the left toe and it instantly kills them because it goes to the neck hitbox, but the old one that connects to the head, not the new one, because of some, who knows, right? Yeah, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, I think it's fine. It's less variability in the game. It doesn't matter that much. Like if you hit a headshot, it's still going to count the same as it did before. It just stops center mass. It's sometimes one-shotting people because it's a neck hit. But if you hit them twice there, you're still avoiding the armor with low level stuff, and it's right by the face at which they already die. So. I think we're all right.
Find it fascinating that we've gone not full circle, but like semi full circle, but with like loops during that route to the full, or hoops rather during that route to the circle, because it's like, we didn't have like armor plates and all this stuff prior. Like we just had armor, and you had like very simple zones. Hitbox zones. I mean, the probably more advanced stuff was like ears and jaw and head, eyes, right? Because that's the meme, top of the head, etc. But then they put in the armor plate system when it first came out, and it was like very advanced. Like you had like all these new hitboxes and gaps in the armor, and they had like the plates had like their own unique hitboxes depending on what style it was, whether it was like Western or versus Eastern, and all this stuff, and people, whatever the case may be, they eventually changed it, and now we've arrived at this point where it's like we're almost back at the beginning of it all. It's like we've almost come full circle.
Do you know what the funniest thing about all of this is? No one ever asked for hitboxes. Guess what I wanted them to do back in the day? I wanted them to separate the durability on the armor into left arm, right arm, chest, and stomach, front and back.
Yeah,
that was it. Or not even chest and stomach, just like front and back, and then the two arms. That's all we wanted, and the ability to change those pieces around. That's all we wanted. And guess where we've ended up? Exactly at that system. We've spent 3 years getting there, but we did finally get there. The first system was annoying, right? But all we needed, it didn't need to be split up. Like I was worried about, we talked about this endlessly, right, before they were, and speculated about it. And I was just like, look, there's going to be so many problems. It's going to increase the variability and blah, blah. Maybe it'll be good. I don't know, but it's just going to change the game a lot. Like all they need to do is split up the durability on the different hitbox pools, and then we can all just carry on with our lives. Like you don't need to increase that complexity.
Yeah.
Just because something's complex doesn't necessarily mean it has meaningful outcomes. This is always our thing. So
I think they put the cart before the horse on that one. It's like they didn't have the foundation to really support that with like the ammo economy, armor economy, etc.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it'll be in a good place, honestly.
Yeah,
I think it'll be in a good place.
Similar vibe. I'm not really too bothered by it either way.
Yeah. And like I'm kind of okay with the neck thing. I mean, it just makes the head hitbox a bit bigger. I'm not that bothered. It doesn't bother me that much. Sometimes you die to it. Sometimes you kill someone with it. Yeah, it increases variability, but not that much. Like it's annoying sometimes, but I'm like, I don't think it'll make that much difference. I think most of the time when you die to the neck hitbox, like you probably would be dead anyway. Like how many? What's the like the delta on the number of like the change in the number of fights? Like every fight you have, how many of them will be different? Out of 100 fights, how many of them will be different because of this changes? 3, maybe.
Yeah. I think,
and sometimes you'll be the benefactor, and sometimes they will be. Like it all kind of evens out.
Yeah, I don't know why. Just the cognitive dissonance between neck and like armpit, because that was like infuriating to me. Is when I would be running, parallel or adjacent to a scav, and he just like one taps me, and it's like 762 by 39 HP to the armpit, and I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Versus like I'm, in my current Tarkov space, I'm just like very acceptant of getting one shot to the head. It's like, oh yeah, I got one tap. That's like, yeah, that's just run the mill for Tarkov these days.
Yeah.
And then neck also falls in that category. Is it just because it's attached to the head? Is there like some kind of psychological thing going on here? What's happening? But anyways.
Yeah. The one thing that I am actually looking forward to, and this is going to be a really niche and stupid, very specific thing, which is that when the neck hitbox is going to be attached to the thorax, if you get shot in the class 3 armor around the neck with like PST or something, your head won't ring anymore. Really specific thing. But the neck hitbox rings your head because it hits the head HP pool because of the way it's coded. So when they move that, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll stop that from happening as well.
Hopefully,
it's like, sometimes you look at the helmet and you're just like, oh, like my helmet's completely intact. Like what happened? Like I only lost like 2 points of HP. I don't understand what happened. And then you look at the neck and you're like, oh, it's like 8 out of like 14 or something. You're like, man, the neck thing. But it's not a ricochet. So it's just kind of weird. So I'm pleased that. But that's like really niche, tiny, specific thing. What else should we talk about?
Well, let's try to wrap up the rest of the news here because we got
let's do it quick, right? We'll do it quick because we've got what? Sorry, are we going to be able to do the second section? Do you think? How's it looking? By the way,
I'm not sure. Good.
Okay.
Well,
good.
Well, yeah. Let's just wrap up the news section and then we'll go from there. So, Khorovod event.
Yeah, Khorovod event is finishing. They told us when it's going to go away, and that's also the Christmas Street 2. So that's what January the 15th. So that is going to be Wednesday. So if you're listening to this, for once, it will actually be finishing after the Scav Talk podcast comes out. Thank God.
Do you know if it's applicable to the Quest 2 that are unique?
I believe so.
Okay, I assume so.
So I think So I think all the Christmas quests are going away. So get them done as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Make sure all of your Christmas tree stuff is done before then. Grind the white baubles. Get your lead X. Like try to get 2 lead X's if you can, because you need 2 for doing everything if you want to complete all the stuff, find a raid. They're annoying to find otherwise. So yeah, get that stuff done, and then just spam crafts for irritating things so that you're using the baubles before it disappears. I'm currently making SR3Ms. I'm just like cranking out three purple baubles, just making loads of SR3Ms. If nothing else, it comes with a 30-round mag, which is worth 40k. So I can just store SR3M magazines. And Velociraptor, the Velociraptor's not very good though. So that's the Khorovod event. I'm not going to finish it. I haven't finished the one in arena either, because the last one requires you to kill like 4 out of 5 people in team fight, and a team fight is probably my least favorite game mode in arena. And I'm at the point in my Tarkov career where I won't force myself to do things that I actively don't like to do. So I'm not doing the one in arena. The Khorovod event itself is stupid. I tried it one time with a stack of 5 from the Discord, like some of the regulars, and we did Shoreline without seeing a single person, and then we all died to a man with BCP FMJ on Lighthouse, which was awesome. So I was just like, no, enough of that. It's basically impossible as a solo, so I don't really care. You get some white clothing from it, big whoop, right? I'm really not that bothered. So some new crafts got added to the hideout. I mean, I did a video about it. You can now make toolkits. You can now make working LCDs. You can now make M61. M61 is locked behind one of the late sniping crests. I can't remember which one it is. There's Wet Job 6 or something. Yeah, Workbench 3. Okay. I think it's Wet Job 6. You have to do that, which is the one where you get sniper skill to level 7. M61 is back. That means people are going to want to get their sniping skill up. Wet Job 7 is not even that hard. Sorry, Wet Job 6 not even that hard to get to. Honestly, you just need to grind some bolt action skill and do it. I think that means M61 is going to be top loaded in lots of people's magazines. They brought a 50 rounder in for the Scar, plus the SR, plus the is it the SR? I can't remember. The RSAS, there's like a bunch of them that can take this new 50 rounder. So 762 NATO is going to be so broken this wipe, but whatever. I don't know why they brought M61 back. I mean, it seems incredibly stupid, to be honest, but whatever. And they've actually finally increased the spawn rates after everybody was complaining about bosses. I think they're now 10%, something along those lines, rather than 5. 5 at the beginning of the wipe is okay, maybe for like 3 days, but even as somebody who doesn't really boss hunt, I don't even have any boss quests. I'm not like a, Kappa grinder or anything, so I'm not at those quests yet, because I play a little bit more like a normal player who's like dedicated. I play like 4 hours a day at the moment. I played a lot in the wipe, obviously, because of the 12-hour streams and stuff, but I'm playing like 4 hours a day right now, and then I'm going to turn that down again next week probably. So, but even then, it's fun to have the bosses there. I've not seen them once. I've not seen Tagilla once. It's nice to have them. Like, I'm glad they've increased it a bit, but they still should just keep them going, I think. And then I guess like the last big piece of news was the 2 things around Streets of Tarkov. So Nikita's talked about 2 solutions to Streets. The first one being basically performance on Streets. Like, what are they going to do about performance on Streets? Performance seems to just be getting worse. We've updated to Unity 2022. Performance is now worse for most people across most maps, especially customs, but even other maps are usually 5 FPS down or something, which on the other maps doesn't really matter, but on Streets does, because if you're already scraping 70, then now it's 65 or whatever, which is annoying. There's 2 potential changes. One is Radical, which is splitting the map into 2. That's the one that's grabbed a lot of the headlines. But obviously they don't really want to do that. The other one, which hopefully will save a lot of CPU cycle, is where they have, when you load into Streets at a certain time zone, they'll have I think 4 or 6 different time frames for Streets. It'll be like, nighttime, morning, middle of the day, afternoon, evening, whatever, right? They have like some set time zones for it. And when you go in, that's the time it is. The sun doesn't move, the shadows don't move, none of the lighting changes. It's like Factory, right? Factories are 2 fixed time zones. Streets will be like that, I guess, based upon the window of the time and whenever you click it, right? So you won't have, because if you look around, the sun's going like tick, 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 and all the shadows are changing. Like,
you can see it.
It's a lot of stuff, especially with all the reflections and all the light, all of the glass and stuff on the streets. So that's the less radical solution that they may well do, is to turn off the time of the raid, because it's nice flavor, but it ultimately doesn't matter. And if it's gonna, I don't know how much that will save. If it eats, I don't know, even 10 frames or something, that would be welcome for a lot of people. So we'll see. It's just we'll see. I really don't want them to split the map. I think that would be a real shame. I think that would suck, unless they still intend to expand stuff. So maybe they could have Streets 1 and Streets 2, and they're both a bit bigger than half of Streets now. Because half of Streets probably would run quite well. Like, you look at something like Ground Zero, that runs incredibly well. Ground Zero runs amazingly. But I don't really know. I haven't looked at the relative sizes of the 2 things, as to whether half of Streets is that the same size as Ground Zero. We don't need it to run as well as Ground Zero. So you could add some extra stuff and make Streets even bigger, and then have some transits through. But you don't have to be matching, into another.
That's true.
But would it like, or maybe it could, maybe it wouldn't match. Maybe you would transit in raid and it would just like move you. You just unload, reload, and in you go. It's like the same raid. It's an hour and a half, say. Like everybody's still in that one raid. You're still linked to that same raid. Some people spawn inside A, some people spawn inside B. You know, you're all in the same raid, even though you're on two separate maps. You can't see each other. You can't shoot each other. And then when you move through, you're then in the other side, but the time is still the same. Like I could see that functioning, but I think it would be nasty. I don't like the idea of that, really. Also, at some point, you know, PCs are just going to catch up with Tarkov. Give it a year, everyone's going to be on the 9800X3D. It'll be all right. Be okay. Only other news thing was Nikita hinting at 1.0. He put Q2 2025 out on Twitter. Lots of people think it's an announcement for 1.0. Nice Guy was pointing back towards the old IGN trailer at some point, which said Escape from Tarkov release teaser video, which they hadn't renamed, or maybe someone had got it wrong, or I don't really know. And that, yeah, a lot of people think VSG would rather have, well, the plans for the game to be finished were, you know, before now. So we're kind of just, they're trying to like get this thing out. So maybe they'll announce the release. Maybe it'll be summer, maybe it'll be winter 2025, but it's looking like it's coming sooner rather than later. And that's another tease of it. No one knows quite what he means, but if it isn't a release thing, I think a lot of people will be disappointed. I'm like 50-50. I'm not actually sure if it is, but lots of people have gone like, no, this is definitely the release announcement. It must be. What else could he possibly say that for? It's just like anything, like literally anything. But anyway, people think it's the release. I'm not sure, but that's what people are saying. Okay. I'll take a breath.
Yeah, we got caught up on some little bits there within longest news segment in history, but we've made it through. And yeah, now going to attempt a live Scav Talk transition into a featured guest who had some technical difficulties. Apparently, it was storming their ISP, internet was just dropping. So we'll see how things go. It seems things are stable, so we can go ahead and drag in and welcome in Clementine. Welcome to the Scav Talk podcast. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Calling from the depths of streets of Tarkov, apparently. The snowstorm. Oh my god. I was just absolutely... I woke up this morning texting church like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to be ready for this. And then I saw my phone was connected to data only, and I was like, oh no. So just got it in the nick of time. So yeah, excited to be here. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too, Ed.
I wanted to quickly comment because you were just talking about the street split, Giga, and I really hope that does not go through, because from what I've seen, everybody typically has good enough performance to where they shouldn't need to go about doing that, because that just seems like a logistical nightmare for the map team, for everybody. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work to do that, for just making the map smaller and like less of like the theme of what they were going for, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's like, even when you just look at the map, you take 2 seconds looking at the overhead and it's like, where'd you cut that?
Right.
It just doesn't really work, right?
Like, even where I'm like, I take my benchmarks like down Primorsky Avenue, just like straight down the street, and I'm looking, I'm like, I don't even know, like, where are they gonna, like, are they just gonna like cut this off like right at Pinewood? But like, that's gonna be really tiny. Like, this doesn't make any sense from like a pathing. Then they have to like repath people around the map. It's just not, it's not ideal. Yeah.
If they turn the time off, then maybe that would be okay. But I hope that's the solution, personally, because that, I wouldn't be bothered about that particularly. Like, it's nice sometimes when you see the sun rising on woods or whatever, but those kind of transitions matter less on streets, I think, because partly there's like buildings in the way and stuff, and it's not like scenic in the same sense. And if we get a bit more performance there, then I think it'd be all right. But yeah, they should. I think they should try that before they start splitting the whole map, because as we said, it's going to cause some logistical problems. But I think you do spend most of your life on streets, right? Doing your various tests.
I know street scav like the back of my hand, really. Yeah. I'm level 11 right now. I heard you guys talking like, oh, I'm at private clinic almost. I just got to get to level 35. I got my Linux. I'm sitting here like, I need to plant my marker at New Gas for BP Depot. Because I've just been running a lot of like offline stuff or just like scabbing. So,
Yeah.
but
With that being
yeah.
said, what is it that you do? If you could introduce yourself for those who aren't familiar with your work, Clem.
Oh yeah. So I like to take my suffering on Tarkov to the next level. I run my YouTube channel talking specifically about making Tarkov run better. I make settings guides for it. I deep dive into the performance of the game. I help people specifically with their own setups in a little series I do on my channel called PC Sherpa. And yeah, I just nerd out about Tarkov performance basically. And PC hardware as a whole. So, yeah.
And it's good that you do, because you've become like the trusted source, I think, for many people, and yeah, myself included, by the way, because I think up until there are other people who do this kind of stuff, but I think up until maybe the last like year or so, the kind of tips and graphics stuff has been in a very kind of slapdash kind of, big streamer says change this in NVIDIA control panel type of videos, without really any testing, sort of spurious stuff, which may work for also because it may work for them.
Right.
Yeah, it's just it was very hard to like know exactly what to do. And Tarkov's such a finicky game about setups and everything, as you well know. It's I've done my own graphics guides before. Like I've done my own graphics guides too. I've done my absolute best at them and try to do kind of what you do, except but I'm like not really a hardware expert. I really am not like I'm a pragmatist when it comes to PCs. I need to build something new or I need something to work. I will then go and research it and see what's good, and then I'll put something together and then I won't look at it again for 3 years. Or like I've got a little bit better at like just keeping up with stuff to some extent, but there's like certain areas where it's like, well, I have an X3D chip, so like you give me a list of numbers from an Intel CPU. I've got absolutely no idea what it does, how good it is, what series it's part of. I've got no idea. I know all the AMD chips because that's what I ended up buying, right? But like, I don't know anything about Intel. So, and it's the same thing with like AMD GPUs. I know a couple of them, a couple of the top end ones, but I only really know the NVIDIA ones because that's the ones that I researched because those are the ones I ended up in my system. So I'm very pragmatic about this kind of thing. So when it comes to making a graphical guide, you really need somebody who's like both a Tarkov, like somebody who knows Tarkov really well, someone who's scientific enough to do the testing for like PC benchmarking, and then is also active enough in the PC hardware market to know what's coming, what's on the market, what are people using, like what are the different options and why it might matter on one system versus another, which is something that like I don't have enough expertise to make a guide that's adequate but not necessarily like completely thorough, which is why I love your video so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, and you could see like even the videos that I started making like a couple years ago. This is to be clear, I'm not like I'm a homegrown sort of like knowledge expert on this stuff, expert in heavy quotation marks. Like I'm going for degree in information technology. So like, yeah, I'm in like PC hardware and everything, but like this has just been like over time, me basically figuring stuff out and then testing things and over time, just figuring out what everything does. Like my early videos, I was definitely a lot more clueless than I am now. But yeah, it's good to have all of those places of expertise, sort of, because a lot of people just sort of like look at their Tarkov performance, they're like, oh, it's low, and then they go to like Task Manager and they're like, oh, CPU's not 100%, GPU's not 100%, the game's broken, I'm rage baiting on Twitter, and then that's that. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a struggle, but it's been good. It's been good so far. We've been helping a lot of people out, so it's been fun.
I have Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say, Clem?
No. Go ahead. Go for it.
I have some questions here. I did some.
Oh boy.
Some research.
Okay.
Well, first off, you play PvE, correct? Or you have played?
Yeah, I play PvP mostly solo whenever I have the time to, and then all of my friends. We used to play Tarkov PvP like a while ago, and then PvE got added and they're like, "Oh my god, I don't have to feel like I'm shit at the game anymore," and then they just play that from there on out. And so I play with them on PvE when they're on, and then I'll play PvP when it's just me. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the questions I had was, why does your PMC have scav loadouts on PvE?
You actually got my friends make that joke. I can't believe that it's not scav loadouts. Like, people see, that's the thing, right? People are always like, oh, why are you running like an MPX when you're like level 35 and you can afford like a FAL with an M61 in it? And I'm like, I can run whatever I want. It's PvE. I don't gotta metafy everything out all the time. So
Yeah, you're not playing PvE with the Death Shadow and
right. You need to get the level 4 face mask that covers your entire face, and you need to run. Make sure you get a freaking Karasa with tier 6 plates in it. And I'm like, let me just throw on whatever rig I want, and then just
TQCM, jump bunny hop, like free looking past the door on PvE.
Yeah, and then the PvE PMC is still just one tap me in the head anyway, so it's still fine. Still just working as intended, honestly. But yeah, I just like to play however, and then I just like rat out in PvP. And it works. It works.
I saw that from one of your streams. I was lurking. I was like, oh my god, I gotta hit him with that.
My friends are always like, every time we load in, they're like, hey, if you bring a kit like that again, we're just gonna not invite you anymore.
Oh god.
And I'm like, okay. My bad.
I respect that though, you're such a alpha gamer, you've done this a million times, and while benchmarking, you just whatever you got in your stash works. You don't have to assemble Exodia or whatever.
Seriously, and I literally have a screenshot from the start of this wipe as a little side note, where I literally have more euros than I do rubles. So I was definitely living the scav life for like a good chunk at the beginning of the wipe.
That's funny.
It was not ideal. We're better now, but it was bad. What'd you have next?
So yeah, I was trying to see gauge if Giga was going to ask something or not, because that wasn't a real question. It was a fake question, but that was funny.
I'm waiting for Church to ask the real questions.
All right, real question.
Oh, the real. Okay.
So, talk to me about Tarkov and memory. Why is it such a memory hog? Why? I think you have a whole video on this, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. I think that video is the first one that you guys talked about. I think. Am I right about? I think you guys brought like over a year ago.
Maybe.
Yeah. That is a really good question. From what I've seen so far, like just when I've been playing, because purposefully this wipe I've been running, like if I check my settings right now, I have the same GPU as Giga. I have a 4070 Ti Super, so I have 16 gigs of VRAM, and I've just been like cranking everything up. Like I have high textures, ultra shadows, grass shadows. I'm playing it like default resolution, 1440p, like no upscaling. Just trying to get the game to break, basically. And really, I've noticed that, just like I saw over a year ago, it does allocate quite like aggressively. It'll just basically book more seats in the theater than there are people, and just keep booking seats in that theater. And particularly, a lot of people have been having issues with their memory usage when they've been loading into raid. I don't know if you've like seen comments about that on Twitter, but like part of the reason why people have been having issues loading in is that they just like run out of memory while they're loading into like customs or something, and then they just like error out and they crash, and then they're like, oh, why can't I play? And so I think part of the issue is that things are just over allocating. I still have to do my testing. I'm gonna make a refresh. Oh, excuse me, a refresh of that video soon-ish, maybe like a couple weeks. Just because I've been trying to play the wipe a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna see with the settings that I have right now, with just things cranked up, if I can get that overflow to occur. because really only I think the place that I've seen like actual that I could be safe to say was memory related stutter was customs. Like the second I
Yeah.
went into, I played, and that's the key too, is that I had to play several raids beforehand. And so I had to get through like running different maps. And then I went to customs on stream. And then that's when I started to see those hiccups. And I was like, okay, that's something that I should try to recreate again to see if I can keep that, like see if I can isolate that and find out what the cause of that is. And I think it is related to memory.
Was that without the RAM cleaner on?
Yes, actually it was. Yeah. And then the funny thing was, good thing that you mentioned that, when I enabled the automatic RAM cleaner and then like, procced it and went through and it cleared the memory, that behavior stayed. That didn't stop. So that's why I was like, okay, that's something. And then I don't know if you guys have seen this thrown around the Tarkov community or not, but I checked my standby memory usage in my resource monitor on my computer. And basically that's just memory that your computer thinks is going to be used again. So it's just keeping it in memory just in case. But like if it needs to dispose of it, it can do that pretty quickly, but it's still there. And all of that was still maxing out my RAM usage after I hit it. So maybe in the future I'll try something like ISLC again and see if that would fix it. But I'm assuming if it's keeping that stuff in memory, odds are it's for a reason. And if it has to call that stuff back again, it's going to cause the game to stutter because it's going to have to call from the drive, and that's going to make a stutter happen for whatever that's for.
This is the funny thing, isn't it? Like some people kind of mistake like high RAM usage for always being a bad thing or whatever. But
right.
As you're saying, you kind of want to have, as much in memory as you can. Obviously, you don't want stuff to suddenly overflow and then like it not be working. But like you want to kind of keep as much as you can, like down on the paper in case you need to call it back again. If you play a raid on customs and then one on streets, then ground zero, and then you go back to customs. Ideally, if you're not like overflowing, then you kind of want to keep all of that stuff from customs if you can, or at least some of the harder to get assets or whatever. So it's not always that like high RAM usage is necessarily always bad, as per people saying in chat. Right? Unused RAM is wasted RAM. Like why have it if you're not going to use it? If it's just empty, you may as well have something in there because you might call it back later, and that might help with performance. But that's the thing is, if you start then, if it's just like too full, and then those things aren't getting cleared properly, and then you start like overflowing, or and it's even more complicated than that because we've got the whole like VRAM thing, VRAM to actual regular system RAM, and then obviously to page files and stuff, which is where performance goes to die. Then it gets tricky. I assume that's probably why you ended up with the 4070 Ti Super, the one with as many suffixes as NVIDIA could fit on the end of a GPU name. Because like for me, I was just like, oh, it's basically like the first good card that has 16 gig of VRAM. That was really where I ended up.
Yeah, that's basically why I did it as well. I was gonna wait on the 50 series, and we might get to that in a little bit because that's gonna be a whole other thing. But yeah, I was like, I just want something with the most VRAM I can get for as cheap as I can get, but still have the NVIDIA feature set for my gaming PC. And I was like, all right, boom, that's what I'll go with. And I got it like maybe 2 months ago. So yeah, I was like, I could wait, but I got the money. I want to upgrade. I had a 3070 Ti before, so it was only 8 gigs of VRAM. It was getting kind of outdated, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna get out ahead while I still can, and still have issues running high textures on Tarkov. So the story never ends.
So I had a normal 3070 beforehand, so we've kind of upgraded in tandem, which is quite it's good to know. I'm probably doing something right. I've got to match Clem's hardware. So Clem's upgrading. It's time to get the next. Although I'm behind you on CPU by quite a long way. I'm still on the 5800 X3D, sadly, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's still like the best CPU on AM4, so you're still fine.
Yeah,
like
it was interesting because I'm still on that CPU. When I upgraded my GPU, basically nothing changed.
Yeah.
And the only place that I saw any performance change whatsoever was on Lighthouse, bizarrely. This was prior to customs rework or whatever, but Streets was the same, and Lighthouse was like miles better than on the 3070 because it's a very texture heavy map. But otherwise, it was the same. Like I really got it for other things. I'd like been streaming on and off a few other games here and there. There's like people would come to me to say like, play this on stream and, do some sponsor stuff or whatever. So I did like level 0 extraction. And then that was also around the time when I was like dabbling with Grey Zone Warfare as well.
Right.
And on the 3070, it was like rough. Like anything in Unreal 5, it's just like bad on the 3070. It just will not run properly. Whereas, the 40 series card is a lot better. And the VRAM and the fact you've got, frame gen, which that's another topic.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, but it's it's certainly an interesting one. But no, it's next for me is probably X3D, other higher series. So probably 9800 X3D. But I got an AM5 the whole rig. It's such a job.
Yep, you can't. And even if you you're going to probably have to reinstall Windows as well because you don't have to go through all the hassle of uninstalling all the drivers from your current Windows install and then trying to migrate everything over. It's kind of a pain in the. We're allowed to swear? We are, right? In the ass.
Yeah.
You are.
But
you are.
Yeah.
Can you not just plug like a 9800 X3D motherboard in and just have it just reinstall the stuff? Is that going to cause? I mean, it'll just be nasty, won't it?
Yeah, you might have some overlap of like the chipset drivers and stuff like that. So
That'd be
it's
so
best to
tempted.
just. Yeah, and a lot of people are, but like part of the people I have on like my PC Sherpa stuff, like it's like simple stuff like that where I'm like, hey, so when you switched from like your lower end AMD GPU, like a 6600, when you upgraded to like your 4070 or whatever, did you like uninstall the old GPU drivers? And they're like, oh, and that's like half of their issues were just caused from that alone. So yeah, better safe than sorry. Just it's clean slate, and then move from there.
Probably the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of 5800X3D, I actually bought one recently. It's still on its way. But I bought the 5700X3D, which I guess was like the more budget-y option. And I mean, by all accounts I've seen, there's like virtually no difference between the two. But I sourced it from an interesting place. Have you guys ever heard of AliExpress?
Oh, really? That's why it's taking so long to get to you.
Yeah, so I got it for a little bit of a steal. It was $160. Apparently it's new, but it's coming in a very interesting packaging. There is no box. It is a CPU and the little plastic housing it sits in.
Oh, okay. Would they put it in like a manila folder or something and then just like ship it to you?
We're gonna find out. I'm fingers crossed there won't be any, pins are bent inward or something. We're gonna. Reviews seemed good, but that's according to the translation on some of the reviews.
Just get out the tweezers and bend anything back that you need to. Should be fine.
Some guy on Reddit said his worked fine, so I don't know, guys. That's
where
right
I get all my information for my channel. I just go to Reddit and they tell me what to post, and then I do it. Yep.
Everyone always tells the truth on the internet, so you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Someone in Giga's chat has the same thing. They got theirs for 130, wrapped in bubble wrap, and they say it works like a dream. So yeah.
Hey.
We got two objective factual points. One guy from Reddit and a person from Twitch chat. What more proof do you need?
Yep. Oh man. I get that a lot, honestly. I don't know if you guys I've been, now that I've actually I start to read comments sometimes. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I need to stop doing that. But I try to reply to a good bit of comments when I can, and oh my god, the amount of people who just said, man, I saw this one guy say it, and so I just decided to set my paging file on 3 different drives, and then lo and behold, something messed up. I don't know what happened, or just random stuff like that. I'm like, man, the things I've seen so far have been impressive, really. But it hasn't been anything super awful. Well, I did help one guy who didn't have thermal paste on his CPU, so it could be pretty bad, but it's all right.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, not great. Not ideal.
That's really not great. I can't remember. Like, I had something happen like that basically when I was like, I think maybe I just didn't use enough, or I don't remember. I don't really remember what happened. And there was like basically none when I'd like open it back up. I was like, oh no, this is not good. I think maybe it might have been like cheap thermal paste or something. This is like a while back, but like these things happen. You know, I'm just terrified of taking mine apart because it's still. I've changed the CPU, right, and stuff like that, and like installed an M2 drive underneath the graphics card. Why did they put the slot there? And all that kind of stuff. But I'm still scared of this rig. I've had it for ages now, but it's because it was a pre-build and I didn't build it myself. Like, I've changed almost everything. It's like the eternal broom, right? You've changed the head, changed the handle. Like, oh, but it's the broom I've had for 20 years. It's that that kind of PC. Like the motherboard is probably the only thing that's the same. Yeah. But I'm still a bit terrified because it's got like the water cooling loop and stuff. It's all in one, so it's not that complicated. But I'm still just like, every time I touch it, I'm just like, is this going to turn back on? Like, I've just been so scared.
I mean, I've had a lot of people DMing me about like because they're trying to upgrade their hardware now. Which, by the way, if you're trying to upgrade hardware right now, probably don't. But just as a quick PSA, wait for like a month. New products and all that. But yeah, the amount of people like I'll get DMs and they're like, where does this front panel header go? Or like, I can't get it to boot up. And they're like, I can't get the motherboard cable, like power cable out of the socket, those like big 24 pin things and all that. And yeah. But it's worth it. It's like an adult Lego set, basically. It's fun.
That breaks if you accidentally touch it with your bare hands.
That also costs $2,000.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It truly is terrifying. So what's the go-to right now? What's the best system that you can have for EFT right now? Do you think?
So basically 9800X3D. I mean, right now 9800X3D, and then probably technically, like if I was going for like I don't care about money, I'd get 64 gigs of like DDR5 6000, or you could probably run 8000 with it as well, like CL30 memory. And then GPU, people like hype it up, but for Tarkov, you could get probably like a 4070 and then chill at 1440p as long as you like manage your texture settings correctly. Like you don't need anything insane for GPUs for Tarkov, at least right now. I don't know what's happening with like that graphics overhaul stuff. I don't know how they're going to break things any further when that happens. But for now, like if I had to choose between getting like a 4090 and a 1200F from Intel, or like a 9800X3D and a 3060, I would go with that setup. Hands down, the 3060 setup, just because you have so many more options in the Tarkov settings to help with GPU bottleneck performance, like DLSS and lowering shadow quality and lowering HBAO, SSR, all that you don't really have the same choice with CPU. So you want to spend high for that and then see what you can get for GPU after.
Yes, exactly. I think that's pretty much the case from my layman's understanding of what's going on in general. That's probably where I'll head. Do we know like what's is there anything coming after the 9800XT? Like what's the sort of roadmap for that stuff? Beyond that, I actually don't know anything because I've not, it's not out and I haven't seen anybody talk about it particularly. Is there like anything else coming that we should be looking out for? Like are there products? Because you mentioned about products launching. Is that mainly the like 50 series NVIDIA cards you're talking about, or something else?
Yeah, well, they had CES, which is in Taiwan. It's basically a tech show. AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA typically announce new products in that show. Not always, but typically they tend to do that. And AMD announced, for example, like the 9950X 3D, which is just like a 16 core version of the 9800X 3D, but it only has that 3D part on the first 8 cores. So what I'm thinking is maybe the people who see bigger number think bigger number better and may buy the 9800 or the 9950X 3D thinking that it would be better, and then odds are it performs pretty similarly to 9800X 3D, and that might help with the supply chain a little bit. But that's coming out. The 50 series is coming out. Lord help us with the multi-frame generation stuff. I'm going to get questions about that for Tarkov, and I'm probably going to cry. But there's that, and then there's also AMD releasing their next generation as well. They're changing the naming scheme, by the way, Giga, which should help you keep track of things. Yeah.
Or it's not like 778 XT X whatever. Like
now they're just making it. They're copying NVIDIA, so now it's the 9070 and the 9070 XT.
I think that's clever.
Yeah,
actually.
If you think about it, it is actually compared to the 5070. That's 4,000 more.
Yeah.
So
4x performance, obviously.
Yep. I think they might win that. Yeah. But
it's interesting you say about the 9950 because that's the same as the 7950, right? We actually talked about this one time on Scav Talk about how the beauty of the 3D chips is you've got this 3D cache. Is it level 2? I forget.
Level 3, yeah. But yeah.
Level 3. And it's on the 5800 X3D and the 7800 X3D and the 9800 X3D, it's like it's everything. It's all of it is all like 3D cache. But on those like higher rated CPUs, it is only on half of the cores or something, like half of the memory or whatever. So it's like people find that they end up, it's either the same or like in some cases, I think it's the 7000 series ones maybe slightly worse because it can't allocate as efficiently. I think it depends, but yeah, it is interesting how you end up like better off just having one that's more dedicated and simpler, I guess, on the inside.
Because those more expensive chips with more cores, how AMD sets it up is they have 2 CCDs or complex compute dies that they have on the CPU itself, and each one has, in the case of like the 9950X3D, for example, they each have 8 cores, or if it's like a 9900X3D, they each have 6 cores. And AMD basically said, like, because of the latency from talking from one CCD to the other on the chip itself, having the cache on both wouldn't really benefit gaming as much as you may think, because gaming still, even though it's kind of changing, gaming is still most of the time limited by single core performance or by memory bandwidth issues. So it's not like you're going to get more performance by just like throwing like an AMD Threadripper with 128 cores at a game. It just can't really utilize those resources effectively. So yeah, they said it also would be way more expensive to put the cache on both. So it just doesn't really make much sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, I've had to help a lot of people who have those CPUs. You've covered it on the channel, I think, on your channel briefly. You've covered Process Lasso,
a little bit,
and that's one of the like few instances where I'm like, yeah, you should schedule Tarkov to just be on the first 8 if you have a 3D Vcache CPU to make sure it's for sure only using those cores, even though it's supposed to do that by itself through Game Bar. Sometimes it doesn't schedule correctly, and have to do it yourself. So, and with everything breaking in Tarkov, honestly, it's better safe than sorry. Just make sure it's scheduled correctly.
What would you say to someone who can't afford to, sometimes the solution to the FPS problems is just drop money and get a big number, right?
Yeah, but bigger number. Yeah.
If you couldn't afford, the money, but you could afford the time and tinkering, like let's say someone has a stock PC, and they got a decent processor, decent RAM, whatever, decent GPU. Where would you have them, start investigating for optimization? I mean, would you just say, like, are we just talking like game settings at this point, or like RAM timings, overclock CPU?
Honestly, most of the time, with most people that have helped recently, it's not the game settings. Because again, a lot of people who are like coming to my channel looking for performance are like kind of confused because they just like see that like, they're not getting 100% on their GPU or their CPU, and they're, like trying to figure out like what's a bottleneck, what am I doing wrong here? And so for most of them, they're CPU bottlenecked, and most of the time it's external, whether it be issues with their Windows install, or them not installing the right drivers, or having like external apps open in the background, like clipping software, or like SteelSeries Sonar actually is. I know a lot of people have recommended that. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys have heard of that.
I've used it before.
Yeah, but that is a killer.
Yeah.
In terms of Tarkov performance, like I'll have people actually like if they insist on using sonar, I make them quarantine it off to the first core of their CPU, like some sort of disease, so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of Tarkov, because it's like actually unironically affects performance that much. And even when I like benched clipping software, SteelSeries just didn't like it. The lows and like the 0.1% lows and the 1% lows of that benchmark for SteelSeries were just significantly worse than every other clipping software in both scenarios, like CPU and GPU bottleneck. It was just awful. So yeah, basically that's the answers. It's 9 out of 10 times it's external issues. And like you said, tuning your memory can help. Like I have a set of timings that I got from Buildzoid, who's from actually hardware overclocking, for my Hynix MDI RAM, and I am not a RAM overclocking expert at all. Just to be clear, I am very very rudimentary. Like I can like find the timings and like assign them and like understand, but like when you like if you're trying to tell me like, oh, which specific timing here out of the 10 do I need to tweak down? I'm like, I have no freaking clue, man. But because it's like a whole nother language.
Yeah.
But memory latency is important, and having an OS that's clean is probably the most important. And to carry over to, it's not like the settings are entirely not worth it to adjust. I think I heard you guys like a couple weeks ago talking about object LOD quality briefly, and like my confusion with what was going on with that. That is one of the few settings that can actually help if you are CPU bottlenecked, but there's kind of a catch with it. Just because if you actually, I should explain this first. Basically, I should say what it is first. LOD is level of detail, so it adjusts the level of detail of objects as they get further away from you. So if you have it at a really low setting, it will give you more performance locally in that specific area, depending on where you're at on the map. But
and you get
things you're going to be walking around. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of that pop-in effect.
Yeah, suddenly magical trash appears on the floor ahead of you.
And not to mention, too, you're going to hit higher FPS sometimes, but still the places that like object LOD quality has lowered the LOD quality of, you're eventually going to get to the point where you are like there, or you're going to visit that part of the map. And then that's just not going to matter anymore because it's still breaking your performance anyway. And I think that's what I was seeing when I was like benching and like comparing and contrasting the settings. But that's basically it. So if you want performance that just goes all over the place, but you could still sometimes get higher, then you could lower object LOD quality a little bit. But that is also why I didn't like bench it officially, because any like percentage that I give you entirely depends on where I am and what map I'm in. Like it's not like something that will just increase or decrease your performance by X percentage. It heavily depends on where you are and like what map you're on. So
yeah, like I actually tried it a bit, and then I ended up turning it back to where I had it before, because it ended up like, I don't know, I'd almost rather the FPS be lower but more consistent. At least I know what I'm dealing with, rather than it running well and then suddenly going and like slowing down and feeling awful. It's like I can almost just like deal with streets being low if it's kind of consistently low and doesn't really move. If it's like around 50, it feels kind of bad, but at least I know what I'm dealing with. Actually, one interesting thing, because it was mainly customs that was bad. Have you seen customs get better? I feel like customs is better than it was at the start. I don't know if you're like able to tweak anything, or maybe it's just me, or maybe it was some stuff preloading. I don't know how Tarkov's graphics work for like a brand new map when they update it. I'm not sure. But like in the first couple of days, it felt like bad. And now it doesn't feel as bad. But it also seems to depend on like precisely whether the game is doing PvE scav mode horde or not. Because some maps, like I was going to the extract on one of them, and I was just like, I'm getting like 100 FPS. Like there's no scavs between me and the exfil. I know that now. I'm like halfway through the map, and I know there aren't any. I know there aren't, because I've played when there's like the scav horde motors are happening, and it's literally like 40 FPS lower.
Yeah.
Like there are definitely no scavs here. Like I can just leave and not worry about it.
As a little side note too, if you want to know if scavs are spawning in, if you put on a frame time overlay, which just shows you how long it takes for a frame, like in between each frame to display to your monitor, you can see the point in the frame time where it like turns into the Rocky Mountains for like 5 seconds, and then you can know like when the AI is spawning in because you can see your game just chug for that amount of time. But wait, what was the original question again? Because now I'm about to drift off to a different thing.
Oh yeah, well, his custom's better now than it was at the start of the wipe.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. When you at the start of the wipe, you were playing for like 12 hours a day, right? For your drop
and I didn't really
streams.
reset my game particularly.
Yeah. So I think the performance felt worse for you because of how long you played. Whereas now when you're playing, you're only doing like 3 or 4 hour sessions.
Yeah.
And you're probably not experiencing like any of that like hitching that I saw after playing for a consistent amount of time, like with the like very slight spikes of latency. That were like, it's almost like rhythmic kind of. Yeah, that's probably what went down if I had to guess. I haven't seen it really improve from what I've been playing. It's been like basically the same thing. And it's also really all over the place as well. It's like you can be at dorms and then just be chilling. Like sometimes I will hit close to like 200 FPS when I'm like closer to the edge of the map and just like wandering around. And then like the second I go towards the factory, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to like 75. Okay, we're just gonna cruise down. But it's been like that since the start for me. I was thinking maybe I would try to just run like 10 raids and like try to bench them like 10 scav raids and like try not to loot anything and just like try to do a lap around the map just like to see performance before they do like any sort of optimization patch supposedly whenever that's going to happen. Not that I have hope, but still. I'm not completely out of hope yet.
We've seen FPS optimization on the roadmap way too many times at this point for me to be baited by that again. Like they need to just stop putting it on that.
Yeah, at the beginning of last year on the roadmap, they had like what? It was there like 4 times, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to test all this, and like nothing happened. Like it's exactly the same as I saw before.
And then everyone's talking about UT 2022, right? And then one of the technical devs came on and was just like, guys, let me just level with you. Like, if we get the performance the same, that'll be a victory.
Yes,
and then just basically left. And everyone's like, oh my god.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say to people. It's like, this is not gonna like, don't think that Uni 22 is just all of a sudden gonna fix everybody's problems and we're gonna be just hunky dory chilling out. Like this is the start of maybe something happening to fix something. Like give it some time because all that is the tool set. It's not the work. So
well, on that note,
they've gone from a manual hammer to a power tool, but they're like it feels uncomfortable in their hands right now.
Yeah, but the bit inside the wood broke, and now you have to like dig it out with like a chisel. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty bad.
But you had mentioned, Clem, about the like checkerboarding with like distant objects, which is I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's new for this wipe.
I thought it was, but I did see the same effect on some items when I was like doing my comparison shots from the last wipe. So it definitely was still there. I believe they call that dithering. I believe that's what that's called. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's checkerboarding. One of the two terms. But that is purposeful. Just in an attempt to lower the object LD quality even further. And from what I saw, it's not too game breaking. Like for most of the objects that it was, there was a couple places where I was like, a PMC could hide behind that, and I could totally probably see them if it was lower LOD. But most of the time, the LOD gets lowered at a distance to where you would really only be hitting that shot on purpose if you had some sort of magnification. In which case, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Because then everything comes back into highest quality.
Yeah. But what I did notice that was weird and that I mentioned in my settings video was that like a lot of the foliage, I'm talking like big trees and stuff that I saw disappear before stayed. like the what's it called? The ridge line of trees, like in the distance for the forest on woods at Sawmill. Like it was different. And with the same LOD quality in essentially as close of a place as I could get for the benchmark. Which, by the way, I just want to note, if there's any BSG devs listening to this, you literally moved the exact pile of logs that I stood on for that test, which like made it very slightly different. So I just want to say that was really, I'm really angry at you for that. But it was still roughly the same distance. And it was just like, it was different. I was like, that's weird. Like those trees weren't there before, but even when I go to lowest LOD now, they're still there.
Well, they're
which
different
makes me think
models.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I didn't think about that. They are.
I assume, anyways. Maybe they're not.
They could
maybe
be just different textures on the same model. For like the snow.
They could do that. I don't know. I actually don't know how like the high detailed like grass is rendered. You know, like I don't know if it's a just like a texture. I mean,
all the grass seems to be just like 2D sprites, basically.
So I wonder if the same's true for trees at their highest LOD. Like definitely at the lowest LOD. That's a JPEG I'm looking at. But
trees once they hit the lowest, they're just basically 2D.
Oh
which
my
makes
God.
it really funny. You're like trying to snipe with like a bolt action with iron sights sometimes, and
like,
you just like
the guy's invisible.
How am I supposed to see? Yeah, you can't see through the bush at all. It's like, oh my God.
Classic.
But yeah, typically those problems are just resolved when you use a picture-in-picture scope and then everything gets rendered in. And then you get to like play a slideshow when you're trying to snipe somebody. But yeah, that is an issue. But most of the time they're not 2D. They actually like lower the amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Polygons. That's the right word. So like you'll see like the trees just like look like they're just like bending more awkwardly now as you walk away. But yeah, that's why whenever I'm doing like those iron sight bolt action quests, I purposefully just push my LOD quality a little bit higher just so that I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's object LOD quality has been a mess. I still have to test too with the invisible PMC stuff. With that too at a distance. I don't know if that's still a thing. But you go ahead.
There was some interesting questions people have had in chat, one of which, I'm interested to see your thoughts on. Is there anything that you can do about picture in picture, or do you just have to suck it up? Like, what exactly is it all CPU as far as you're aware? Like, does it matter what like res you're on, or like
I'm almost certain.
Or, like, does anything matter? Is it it just sucks to suck when you're using scopes?
I'm almost certain that it's still just causing more of a CPU limitation because of the fact that in that different picture, you have a higher LOD quality. Like things have to be rendered when you're zooming in, which I think, honestly, if they were to go for a different solution to that, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would chase that too heavily. Like maybe they could do something to where like when you scope in, like the sides around your scope are like a little bit blurred and they can lower LOD quality even further or something like that just to try and fix performance a little bit. But I would keep picture in picture just for the fact that it keeps everybody who's sniping on the same playing field, and you can't get like some sort of inherent advantage from like lowering quality to like the absolute lowest and then like being able to see people in places you shouldn't. I think they should keep that. And also too, it does put more load on both your pieces of hardware. Like so your GPU, like so it could bottleneck you on either side. So either way, you are reducing performance by using those picture-in-picture scopes. But I think it's kind of the best.
A funny kind of like spitball idea that I've had like over the past few years is like a button where you can like close your other eye, like you close your left eye and it, you lose the peripheral. It's just the scope. So it's not picture-in-picture anymore. It's just the one picture, right? It stops rendering outside. I wonder if that would help. And you could turn that on and off. as well. So if you're like exclusively sniping, you're just like, oh yeah, like here's a guy, close the eye. Right now it's like my FPS, my FPS goes up, so now I can just like actually get the, and then you open your eye again. Right, okay, we can see the rest of the map. Like, add another key. Where's that one going to go? It's going to have to go on like Control Alt Tab and 9 on the right hand keypad. Otherwise, it's not going to fit in my control set.
Well, I think that might actually be a good idea, because having it toggleable, whatever they do, would be ideal, because I know that somebody who plays labs for too much time every single day is going to be really pissed when their favorite voodoo or razor sight gets like blurred around the edges, and they're like, oh god, I can't pixel peek around corners, I can't like zoom across and then like peek around anymore. Like so yeah, whatever they do for that, which I don't think that's like the highest priority. I think there's bigger fish to fry, but if they did go for that, I think they should have some sort of toggleable or like scalable option for that to like make sure people can have their preference. Because I know some people might be pissed off if it like ruins their meta build and stops it from being effective in CQC. Because like if you're using like a 1x to 6x or whatever, and then you go to 1x mode, but you're still like blurred on the sides, people are like, oh, what the hell? Like I'm trying to peek this corner and I can't see past the scope to like see if this guy's peeking outside the peripheral of that.
Tower in chat's just had a great idea. He just said, just make that be the eye cups function. You put an eye cup on the scope, completely blacks out the surround. Have it off, it's like it is now.
That's a good idea, but then you have to add an eye cup for like most of the picture-in-picture stuff.
If you wanted the better performance, then yeah.
Yeah.
Pay rubles for increased picture-in-picture performance.
At the the sacrifice of your peripheral.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that I was reminded of when you guys talked about this, I went and found it, is in Tarkov SP land, someone actually developed a solution to this by having the external picture-in-picture component go process through FSR/DSS or DLSS.
DLSS, yeah.
So it actually, I think how it works, I'm looking at the video. I can't tell if, I don't know if, I can't remember because I used it once. Maybe I have to read it through, but anyway, something gets, downscaled and then upscaled versus AI.
Right.
And it's actually funny because in the video, they actually get more FPS using the picture-in-picture in their particular setup. I mean, their GPUs maxed out.
They must have been GPU. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They must have been GPU bottleneck, because that's the only time where that would help. Like and I know like people who I think I saw Giga like make a post on Twitter or something where he was like trying to snipe on customs and then looking towards the factory with a picture-in-picture scope and getting like 40 FPS is just like I can't. Yeah. I can't really properly react sometimes with the performance like that.
I hate that.
So, and in that case, for that specific instance, when you're looking at the factory and stuff like that, I think most of people's performance problems are related to CPU issues, because I mean, Giga's got the same GPU as I do. There is no chance that he's having any difficulty on that end unless he's running crazy settings that I don't know about. That would be a fix for that situation, though.
So they do call that out here.
I will mention too that some people, and this is kind of getting into a new topic that I don't know if you guys heard of this, but it's been coming up on my channel a lot. Some people are using frame generation.
I wanted to ask you about this.
Yeah, to smooth out the performance, either when they're in picture or just when they're playing in general.
How are they? I'm a little confused because it's not officially supported, right?
Yeah, but there is this handy program, which I actually, to clarify before I start talking about it, I really do like it. But that's for different things that aren't Tarkov. Lossless scaling. They purchase this on Steam for $8.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it basically takes the window of Tarkov and applies the frame generation and then basically projects that to your screen, projects that to your display. So it's obviously not implemented directly into the game. It does not have as much data that like DLSS frame generation would have, or FSR. It doesn't have motion vectors from the game or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the quality is, but people, and I see it like clickbaited, not just in like Tarkov community, but like in general, where the only thing they say is like, ×4 the FPS. Get this app now. And then they download it. And then the trade-off with using frame generation is that it's in the name, like they're generated frames. There's no sort of input that you can see when those frames are being generated, because like until the next real frame, you're not like, you just can't move the mouse around. It's not actually the game being presented in those frames. But how it generates those is it does hold back the frame that comes next to get the right amount of data to generate the frames in between. So you're getting increased latency any way you cut it. So if you're sensitive to that, or if that's like an issue, like for me, I tried it in Tarkov and I couldn't stand it. Like even like at a 60 FPS base, like minimum, which some people aren't even hitting when they're trying to use frame generation, it just like did not feel good competitively. And you can just see like one of the things that lossless scaling still struggles with, which I don't know if they're really going to be able to solve, is on the edges of your screen where things are popping in. The frame generation kind of has no clue what to do with those. So it just kind of garbles around the edge of the screen.
Especially for all the foliage and stuff too, I can imagine. Oh my god.
Yeah, it just sort of like boils up. I mean, obviously, like if that's not really like a issue for you and you don't mind that, it does make it smoother. But like the hiccups you get when scavs spawn in that I talked about, where like it's just rocky mountains for 5 seconds, that's still going to be an issue. Like it's not going to make that go away. Like if anything, it's going to exacerbate that, because then all of a sudden, like the frame pacing is just going to be all over the place for that amount of time.
Goes from like 60 FPS to 5, so it generates all the frames in between that gap.
It's just going to go crazy. Like, so for me, and especially since you have to pay for it, and like I don't want somebody who like is like I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but I want to get more performance, so I'm going to spend $8 on this program just to like try to get more frame rates in a desperate plea to get the bigger number that's better, and then like realize that there's additional latency. I really don't think it's like useful for our community, and that's why like I didn't really make a video on it, because I just don't think that the latency impact is going to be for most people. There are people who like it and they play with it, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that for most people it's going to be ideal. So
I did some research on frame gen and looked around to see people's feedback, and like most of the people who seem to be enjoying it were people who are like, I'm a non-competitive FPS person and I'm playing PvE and it's just kind of chill, and like the extra latency, like I don't really notice.
Right.
Those were the people who seemed to enjoy it the most. I tried it myself and had to fiddle around with it. I actually I said to you, Church, when I was playing around with it, I was like, we were setting up for Scav Talk one time and I was like fiddling around with it, and I was like, it's awful, Church. It's god awful. Like I can't, like I literally cannot use this. I was like, it's so, but like as soon as like a pillar moves in front of your viewpoint, like it then has to like re-update behind, and I was like, man, the latency, I just can't deal with the latency. Like if you're even remotely competitive in video games in general that require like looking, you just can't. You just can't use it. Like it's so bad. Like I already tried it using actual NVIDIA, frame gen in Grey Zone Warfare, and there it was like just about okay. But like again, it's one of those. It's almost like it's really awkward the way that this stuff works, because if you're running 100 FPS base, it doesn't feel that bad, because the timing between fake frame being slotted in the middle of the other frames doesn't matter so much, because it's coming, every 10 milliseconds. Right, so it's not too bad. So 3 frames takes you 30 milliseconds. Okay, that's not too bad. If you're running it in 60 frame base, well, every frame's coming at like 16 milliseconds instead, and then you're talking like nearly 50 milliseconds for 3 frames. It's like it's just like the lower the frame base gets, the worse it is. So like the people who need it the most, it actually doesn't work for them. And then the people who have good
Exactly.
frames anyway, you don't need to put it on.
Yeah, that's and like even for me, I have a 240 hertz OLED display, and like even for me, if I was running like 120 FPS base and then trying to frame gen up, okay, yeah, maybe. But like at that point, I'm like, wait, I'm running 120 FPS. Like, do I really need this? Like, it's. And I ran it in I played a little bit of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle because I actually got a code with it with my GPU. And so I played that for a little bit. And in there, when I'm running frame generation, I'm also playing with a controller. I'm like, at that point, I'm like, okay, like this is all right. It makes it look smoother, more cinematic. I'm like, okay. And it's also got a pretty good implementation of it overall. And it's not like lossless scaling is arguably like the worst case scenario for a frame gen when it's just like taking the window and is like, oh God, what the hell do I do with this? But yeah, for people who are actually trying to play competitively, I don't see the point of it, which is why I was so flabbergasted when I saw the 50 series presentation at CES, which I don't know if you guys heard about that.
I've heard about it. I didn't see it, but I've seen a lot of stuff about people talking about many things with it.
They're adding multi-frame generation basically. And if
Was
you're
it-
wondering, for those of you in the audience, no, we're not adding it to Tarkov, and no, you shouldn't use it if it ever did come to Tarkov. On the odd chance that it did, please don't use it. Because
Is this coming, what, DLSS 4, is it?
yes, yeah. Which
do we even have DLSS 3 on Tarkov?
we have DLSS 2.6, if I remember what it was the last time I saw it, which is fairly old. But even then, that DLSS version, the stability in Tarkov when you use it. Like I see, like Giga, I see you run it just because like the flickering gets so dramatically decreased on like everything, even though it's lower than native. Like the flickering just looks,
I hate the flickering in Tarkov. I hate it so much. I
God.
hate Tarkov's anti-aliasing implementation. It's absolute garbage. Like you'll be walking around and the power lines are just like, just like vibrating in the sky, and it's so annoying. And like especially with and foliage does it as well. I'd rather have DLSS with a bit of ghosting, than have all of the flickering. I just can't deal with the visual noise of the AA in Tarkov. You can't turn it off. Oh no, you can turn it off, but it looks absolutely ass.
And it just it pisses me off so much too, because like we have DLSS. If you just add an option for DLSS to run at native resolution, voila, problem solved. You're done. Basically, it's gonna, for like 80% of people, problem solved, because 80% of people have NVIDIA cards. But like, I mean, people on FSR are probably still gonna have trouble. But I mean, what are we gonna do? I'm kidding. There is also native FSR as well that they could add, but none of that is there. Like for people, the only option if you want a DLAA, which is deep learning anti-aliasing, the only way you can basically do that is if you set in your NVIDIA control panel for DLDSR, which is a super resolution, and run higher than your native monitor's resolution, to then scale it back down to your monitor's native resolution using DLSS in game to make it. And it's like, why do we have to go through all this? Like, just put the option in the game. Like, is it that hard? Like, how much dev time does it take? Like, even my mods have like gone into like Tarkov Q&As and like asked Nikita, like, hey, can we get DLAA maybe? Can we like get that? And maybe like DLSS 3 or something? And he was like, we'll see, basically was his response. And then like nothing happened. That was like a year ago or something in like a Q&A. My mod sent me the clip of him asking, and I was like, it's just like, when is this gonna happen? Like, are we waiting for the graphics rework? I don't know. But I can even see it in the trailers that BSG releases. I'm like, how do you not see it? It's right in your face. I can tell you see it. It's crazy.
Yeah, for the first time I looked at AMD GPUs because I saw some videos about the press, the new 50 series cards. Watched a few videos, didn't really. I mean, I was like highly skeptical about the frame generation to begin with. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
They're now they're putting in, was it 3 extra
multiple
frames?
Yeah, you can choose,
But
which is
I'm just like, I just really don't think that's gonna ever be for me, except for maybe like Breath of the Wild on PC one day. You know what I mean? Just like the most
yeah.
coziest game. But
Mhm.
anyways, and then but I will go into. I think that generation's probably a big skip, but I
Yeah.
was like, well, let's see what AMD's offering, and I looked at some older stuff, and I don't know. My next upgrade might be an AMD GPU, which will be quite some time since I had an AMD GPU, but I don't know. That or it just feels bad to go with like a 4000 series like 2 years after. I
Mhm.
don't know, but
And
the 4000 was
for
a decent slash good.
you have a 3070 as well. Like you both had a
hmm
3070, right? Okay.
At
Well,
one point, yeah.
Um,
I won't. Yeah,
yeah,
Giga has 4070 Ti Super now.
right. Yeah. Because I would say right now, I don't think AMD's released an official date for their
hmm
9070 class cards.
Yeah,
Um, but
I'm
if the
definitely
MSRPs
waiting,
are, yeah,
but
I would wait because,
I was
yeah.
looking at they're older, the 7 9 stuff, because they had a few different
Hmm.
offerings, and like I knew nothing about this stuff, so I had to educate myself a little bit and see, and it might be because AMD's kind of been in that space where it's like value, quote unquote, but then you have to deal with like AMD, which is typically like drivers are kind of questionable. Um, and I don't know. It seems like their strategy is like, look how much VRAM you get, and then Nvidia's strategy is like, look how much AI you get. It's
Yeah.
like it's the worst of. I mean, I guess VRAM's not awful, but like if I'm going to be playing at 1080p, I don't need like 12 gigs of VRAM. Like I just don't need that.
Well, depends on some like modern titles. Maybe. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie to you.
maybe. Yeah,
Um,
the Call of Duties nowadays, don't they just like eat up VRAM?
yeah, it's been. I played that for a little bit, and I was this close to making a settings guide for Black Ops 6, but I got sick for like a month, and I was like, okay, well, hype's gone. Never mind.
hmm
Um, but uh, yeah, it was all right. It was running fairly well. Just on an 8 GB GPU, I was like, man, I got to be careful because I could see that limit very quickly approaching. Um, so it is
Yeah,
going to
like
make it
my
a real
next.
crime if they launch 5060 with 8 gigs. Just to put that out there too, because yeah, it's kind of the end of that GPU era.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
my.
it's kind of interesting. Like, I ended up sort of because the reason why, like, I didn't really want to go from 3070 to 4070 Ti Super. Really, like, the VRAM was kind of nice, but like, I kind of got squeezed. It sort of it sort of like links all the things that you've said together in one go, which is about how often like the background performance is what ends up causing a lot of the issues. And up until changing GPU, I was running. I do 95% of my Tarkov gameplay live, and I was running everything off single PC. And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons why I ended up doing what I did, just because I moved all of the other gumph off onto the streaming PC. And when I was playing, Tarkov doesn't really matter that much, but when I was playing Grey Zone Warfare, literally just opening OBS, not even doing anything, just having the program open would decrease my frames by 10. So I was going from, can't remember exactly, like at the time it was quite bad. So I think I was going from like 6. Actually, when I had the 3070, it was even worse. It was like I was going from like 55 FPS down to like 45 FPS or something with the 3070, which was crazy. So I was like, right, we need to do something about this. Like, I was also having crashes. And what's really interesting is that some people are just posting on Twitter right now, people talking about having like crashes on streets and Lighthouse. Actually, mainly streets, but like crashing when they leave a raid. And I used to get this all the time, and I used to get it on streets and Lighthouse, where even playing, I think I was playing low, sometimes it would happen, and it was to do with streaming on a single PC, and then I think it was something to do with like unloading like memory and VRAM and stuff, so something along those lines. And as I would leave the raid, the GPU would be like busy dealing with its VRAM, but that meant that it ended up like getting locked up somewhere in the process, and like the NVENC encoder was getting like left behind, and that it would get like stuck for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then OBS would be just like, I'm getting any frames, I'm out, and it would just pull the stream, right?
Oh,
And I'd get an error. I'd get an actual error, and it would like just blow the stream up, and I'd have to like go in and
Damn.
restart it. And because I was running multi-streaming within OBS, if your main stream goes down, you get a proper error message. But if your secondary stream goes down, because it's part of a plugin, it didn't have like the full error system in it, so it would just silently turn off in like the little mini panel. And I was like, this is a freaking nightmare. Sometimes it'd be like 10 minutes before I realized that like YouTube streaming has like turned off.
oh God.
And people like, I look at the chat and people are just like, well, I guess he's gone. And I'm like, no, I'm still here. And then I turn back up, but then YouTube's like, oh, you timed out because you weren't within the disconnection protection. So now it's a new stream. So then a second stream appears on the channel. I was like, this is honestly awful. So like that's why I ended up like changing it over, because it's just like losing FPS from running OBS because having stuff in the background sucks, especially with like Unreal 5 games. Like I wanted to move from the 3070 anyway, blah 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 blah. So that's why I ended up doing it, because I was like, this is going to help in Tarkov to stop me just like locking up and it being a pain, and I can play these other games that I'm getting, some sponsor stuff for or whatever. Because I'm having to like cap my frame rate like per game, and in some Tarkov cases it's like per map to stop it hitting 100%, because otherwise it'll end up lagging my encoder and stuff. So I moved the 3070 into the stream PC, and that now does the encoding. I just use NVENC. Lots of people use the CPU to do encoding for second PC. I was just like, I know NVENC works, I'm just gonna put it in there. And like the two choices was either to go and buy something like really cheap that has the NVENC encoder, just like at a 3050 or something, because they were really cheap. They were like £150 or something, like really not expensive. But I was like, am I just gonna spend like £150 on a thing that just encodes and does nothing else? Or I could like not spend that money, and I could just move the 3070 and actually just upgrade my actual GPU and get more VRAM and do all the other stuff. So I was like, yeah, I guess I'll do that. I probably should do that. It's better. And the beauty of that is that my old PC is basically in the stream PC. Like the original 3700X CPU and the 3070 that I was running when I first upgraded to this like pre-build, both of those are in the stream PC. So if something blows up on my main computer, I can still play Tarkov or edit or whatever on the other computer, because it's like it's an adequate rig. And then the silver lining to that was that the audio tests and things that I've been doing recently, it's just me. I have two accounts. I can play Tarkov on both computers, and I can put the headphones on for my character, and I can use the mouse and keyboard for the other character, and I can hear in real time what it sounds like when I'm running around with the other one. Like it's so valuable. So like there's so many upsides to having done what I've ended up doing with like the multi-PC thing. But otherwise I don't think I would have gone to the 4070 Ti Super, honestly. If I was just like playing as a gamer, the 3070 would have been fine. But it's because I'm creating content and all the other stuff that it ended up causing issues. I think like it sometimes takes a bit of time to get out of a raid, but you're not having like the stream break. If you're just a gamer, it doesn't matter so much, right? If it takes a minute to get out of raid, like whatever. So yeah, no, it's all interesting. This AM5 on the horizon. I'm not excited.
It was really smart too. You kind of sparked the idea in my head of getting another Tarkov account, because I don't know if you've like seen my previous like cries for help on Twitter of like when I'm trying to benchmark, and then like I'll go and like it's like nighttime, or like sometimes like the second time wouldn't work, so I'd actually have to wait until it got to the correct time. And then you also can't set the weather in solo offline, and I'm like, okay, I may have to just like redo my entire testing situation and buy a second Tarkov account just to put on my stream PC so I can have him load into the raid and then leave so that I could just like be there. But like, and then I was like, oh, but that's going to be like, it won't be the comparable results anymore, because then like offline co-op part of it's on BFG servers, and there's going to be that whole other thing. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? But like, I got to decide something, and it'll be more consistent in the end. So I was like, probably do what you're doing.
Yeah, it's quite good as well, because if you're running on BSG servers, it's like sort of live with no AI. It's like it's closer to online because you're running on their servers, and you can put AI on as well. It obviously makes it more inconsistent, but you can put AI on, but there's no PMCs.
Yeah.
Other than like your other account, so it is like more controlled. But you can do it however you want, right? You can either do it, you can either do it like with no AI, just have it raw performance and whatever. But having the second account's great for testing. I think it's awesome. Yeah, the solo offline stuff is so restricted in comparison to the co-op.
It's awful.
But it's like it's really lame actually.
And I've like, for that co-op too, I was thinking, I was like, man, I could then like test like some of the AMD settings, and then I could like, what I was gonna say, bring like some more testing on that perspective, because on my streaming PC, I actually have an AMD GPU. I have a 7600 from AMD. So like the people who are like saying like, oh, AMD GPUs are like worse for Tarkov or whatever, I can like kind of test that as well just by like getting a second account and then booting it up in there. And but the problem with that's what I was gonna say too. The problem with testing the AI is actually what I said earlier about like when the AI spawn in and there's that dip in frame rate. That's why I've never tested with the AI in offline, because then I can like, I'd have to basically capture the whole raid, assuming I survive, just so I can like isolate out the parts where the scavs just decide to spawn in at random intervals, and then like see what the performance is. Then it's like, it's just not gonna like be consistent enough for me to like show people a number, you know.
Each test takes an hour. You've then got to take your frame rate as a CSV. You're importing that into R. You're running custom scripts to strip out the 5-second lag. You know,
and I'm like, I cannot. I don't have time to do all that. I don't. And I was like, even for like the memory testing I'm going to do, where like I was thinking, it's like, man, when I did it the last time, each one of those tests that I did took an hour, at least, more like an hour and 10 minutes, because I would have to load into each map, go to the place. Well, I would start benchmarking the second that I got in the map, but I would go to the place where I was seeing if the memory was rising, stay there for 20 minutes to see if I could see the trend, and then leave that raid, load into the next one, and do that again for 2 more maps, and then just keep doing tests like that for that memory leak stuff. So I was like, I got to figure out if I can make this more. I got to optimize my testing, because I was like, this is going to take me forever if I don't figure out some way to do it quicker. So,
yeah, I've done enough of it to know that it takes an eternity. So, hats off to you. I think the whole community is in debt to the work you do. One man's labor, benefiting tens of thousands. So.
I'm glad. I mean, it's fun, and then I get to just like nerd out about tech shit, or Tarkov or whatever, and have people make fun of me for bringing diverse loadouts and
it's not a scav kit; it's a diverse loadout.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks for accepting my invitation to come on the show, Clem.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I'm sorry I had to delay a little bit there. I woke up and I was actually just like, oh my God, like, you have to be kidding me. Like, the day that I was like, all right, boom, everything's set, wake up, snowstorm. And I'm like, all right, awesome, great. Yeah, at least I was able to come on for this part of it. It was good. It was very fun. Thank you for bringing me on. It was good.
Of course.
Thank you for being here.
All right. And with that, we will catch you all next week.
Enjoy the flea market. Bye-bye.